Yeah, can I have a dozen red roses, please?
Oh, hi, Johnny. I didn't know it was you.
How much is it?
It'll be $18.
Go, keep the change. Hi, doggy.
You're my favorite customer.
You are tearing me apart, Lisa!
I did not hit her. It's not true. It's bullshit. I did not hit her. I did not. Oh, hi, Mark.
One of them found out about it, beat her up so bad she ended up in a hospital on Guerrero Street.
What a story, Mark.
Oh, hi, Dustin.
Oh, hi, Jake.
Oh, hi, audience.
Oh, hi, everyone.
Everybody, welcome to the Movie Boners.
We talk about Hollywood movie. Big Hollywood movie.
Oh my God, this is going to be the best episode or the worst episode, which is appropriate. It's hard to know which it'll be.
You
Maybe
say such funny things.
well, it could be both at the same time, I guess. What a story, right? So, before we get into it, what beer are you drinking today?
Well, I can't remember if I've had this one on the show before or not, but it kind of fits if you really, really reach for it. I am drinking Grit and Glory by 4 Sixes.
Mm-hmm. Oh, hey, yeah.
Oh, hey. It
Oh,
kind of
hey.
works. It kind of works because,
Yeah.
you got to have some grit and you got to go for some glory.
Works more for the second movie, I think, than the first, but
Sure,
that's good.
Sure.
I said, oh, hey, because I actually saw that 4 Sixes beer in the store the other day.
Oh, really?
And sent a picture of my wife because the 4 Sixes is a massive ranch in Texas. And Taylor Sheridan is part owner of that ranch now.
Oh.
And that 4 Sixes, the only reason I know about it is because it's on the show Yellowstone also. They like send some guy down there and horses down there and back and forth and stuff. So it's come up a couple times.
Well, they make
So
pretty good beer. So
that's good. Yeah, I feel like they're cashing in on the brand recognition with Yellowstone, basically.
All right.
Well, mine works, I think, on a few levels. Because the movie today is one of the weirdest movies you've ever seen and one of the worst movies you've ever seen. This beer has one of the weirdest names and possibly one of the worst names that I've ever seen on a beer.
All right.
And I'm hoping it's pretty good. Just like I know that this movie is actually pretty good, better than you would expect based on everything that you've heard about it. So from the Knotted Root Brewing Company in Nederland, Colorado, I'm drinking a beer called Hot Dog Flavored Water, which is the least appetizing. My wife almost vomited when I told her I got this beer. I was like, do you want some? And she's like, dear God, no, I don't want some. Hot Dog Flavored Water is actually pretty good.
Oh.
It's a unfiltered double dry hopped IPA. And
right.
better than you would expect. Very enjoyable, actually.
All right. You said hot dog flavored water, and I'm not going to lie. The very first thing that went through my head was Limp Bizkit, because they had an album called The Chocolate Starfish and the Hot Dog Flavored Water. Let's just keep on rolling.
That's a good idea.
Oh,
yeah, but I mean,
God.
it's a very American beer with
Very
American
beer.
holidays. Speaking of American holidays, this episode comes out the Sunday before Memorial Day, which is wildly appropriate. I didn't realize it when we planned this. We were kind of just filling a couple of episodes before we had to do the Mother's Day episode, obviously, and then we'll have to do a couple episodes from now are related to movies that are coming out around that time.
Do we have
we have a couple spots to fill.
We have a couple big episodes coming up. Do you realize that?
Yes, that is true. I do. I actually need to get started prepping for all of those. I have not really done that yet.
Yep.
But so this is coming out on the weekend of Memorial Day, which is really fun and enjoyable. I didn't realize how many things tied into this episode releasing it around this time. So as I was prepping for this, and if you go to Instagram, you will find this because you will have seen this, I'm sure, after Memorial Day. I'm posting a video which you will enjoy very much, where Tommy Wiseau is saying Happy Memorial Day to everybody. He did it with like Urban Outfitters or some shit. I don't know, but it's on YouTube, and I ripped it and I stole it, and I'm going to put it on Instagram on Memorial Day and promote our show for it, because it's all about Tommy Wiseau in the room and all of that. Yes. So happy Memorial Day in advance, but go watch it on Instagram. It's amazing. The second thing is, this is filmed in 2023, filmed meaning our podcast. We're not filming anything. We're recording this in 2023, which happens to be the 20th anniversary of The Room.
Yes, I did know that one.
Just announced recently that the not Fandango, Fathom Events is doing a bunch of screenings on June 27th all across the country for the 20th anniversary, and Tommy Wiseau has been posting it and all stuff. By the way, you may have noticed we now follow Tommy Wiseau and all of his various companies and social medias on all of our social medias now. Subscribe to all of his YouTube channels. So just so you know, we're finger on the pulse when it comes to Tommy Wiseau content. But if you're interested at all in seeing this movie in a theater with other people, which you should, there's a Fathom Events thing June 27th, a month from when this comes out, that you should definitely check out.
I feel like I kind of want to do that. I know you and I have talked about the screenings that they do globally. Yeah. It's not just here in the state. It is across the globe that they do these big screenings. Tommy is notorious for showing up to this stuff. And originally I was like, I don't think I'd be able to like tolerate going to a screening.
Yeah.
And then we started prepping for this episode. Now, I've watched this movie a few times prior to this episode because you and I have talked about it so many times.
Yeah.
Prepping this time and watching it this time, because I watched it like 3 more times.
Yeah.
I'm so happy to hear they're going to do some 20th anniversary stuff. And I found myself very much like, please do like a Blu-ray special anniversary edition. Like, let's do a big combined. That please. I think I have to go to a screening. So
yeah. I would not recommend it for the first time you see this movie, because if it's like any of the midnight screenings I've heard about, you will not understand anything they're saying because people will be yelling at the screen. You should see it a couple times by yourself or with a close friend who's not afraid to take a risk on it. But I do think it would be really fun to see it in person too.
I don't know if watching it with a group of friends the first time is actually the best idea, because those intimate scenes,
of which there are a few, yes,
just never end. But we're gonna get to that.
It's true. Before we do that, we almost missed the best part of the show.
No, God damn it, no!
Checking in on our movie draft. Before we do the episode, we have to do the movie draft. So it won't be long. Not a lot of new stuff has come out recently, but spoiler alert, I'm still in the lead.
I'm still in the lead.
I notice I'm in the lead. It's a closer. It's a further. What am I trying to say? It's a greater margin than it was last year, where it was tighter in the IMDb rating and tighter in the box office at this point. So I don't know if that's good or bad. I do know that Fast X came out today, and that has only good news for you, I think. Audiences are a big fan of it. Critics are predictably not a fan of it, obviously. And it's going to make a buttload of money. I don't know if it's a rumor or like something that Vin Diesel has teased, or if it's actually been announced that the last 2 movies are now last 3 movies.
Yeah, I saw that same thing. Some guys at work and I were talking about this, where we were like, the studio wanted 1 more, so it's now 3 more final films.
Yeah, it's a 3-part finale, which has never been done before. A big deal, I guess.
It's just like, Let it end.
Yeah. As much as I have enjoyed it, I'm not a big fan, but I enjoyed the episode we did where we watched them all.
Yeah.
It's fun. I don't, I'm not mad at anybody for liking it, but it's not great. And I just see that comment constantly. Let it end. I also saw the best comment I saw this week was someone saying, just do a Fast and Furious and Transformers crossover already.
Just get it over with.
Absolutely. That makes perfect sense. That would be incredible. I would be down for that. So maybe someday. Maybe that's the finale that they just added. They needed some time to tie those together.
Maybe.
Maybe. But other than that,
I doubt it.
Nothing else has come out. By the time next time, we'll check in on how the Little Mermaid is doing, though. Very excited about that. That should be interesting.
Did I tell you about when I showed my daughter the character posters that they released for that?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Maybe.
All right, folks. If you haven't seen these character posters, and Jake, you're going to need to do this as well because you're going to laugh.
I personally had a visceral reaction when I saw the Flounder
poster. Okay, you're already on the same page. So
Okay.
I saw the posters before my daughter did, and I keep joking with her of like, are we going to go see The Little Mermaid? And she's like, dear God, no, Dad. It looks so bad. And I'm like, I know. But then I asked her, have you seen Flounder? There he is. Folks, if you're only listening, go to Google, type in Flounder live action Little Mermaid.
Uh-huh.
I showed her that picture, Jake, and her response was, is he dead?
He does look kind of emaciated,
He looks sickly. That's the kind of fish, if you accidentally caught that fish, you'd be like, oh shit, the whole thing is diseased. This is bad.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm especially compared to the original, like this handsome little devil who's so
like
gentle
adorable,
and kind looking.
You immediately are like, great character. I feel warm and like cozy around. You see the live action version and you're like, good God, what killed this fish?
Expressive eyes where these are just dead inside.
Just so dead.
Black pits, yeah.
But then my daughter and I got a good laugh. We were like, so they're trying to make the creatures, all the fish, will focus in on the fish to be realistic because it's live action. So they're like, we have to have realistic looking fish. It's about a fucking mermaid.
Right. Yeah, there are lots of undiscovered fish under the sea. You could do literally anything. Yeah, I've seen a lot of debate about is Sebastian a lobster or a crab, and there's mixed feelings on both sides.
And Sebastian looks bad. And I'm just like, the only thing that is slightly like that would probably be the best part of the movie, and it's probably going to be the only thing people talk about when it comes out, is Melissa McCarthy as Ursula.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not going to go watch the movie. I'll just watch the YouTube clips that obviously people are going to just release. I just want to hear her sing the one song. I'll watch it on YouTube when they spoil it, and that'll be my free, because that movie looks terrible.
I imagine at best it will be like Beauty and the Beast, where they do average versions of the songs you love, and then also add a bunch of bullshit new songs that are not as good.
100% there's going to be bullshit songs in it. 100%.
I want to make a meme where it's the Javier Bardem's King Triton, and he's not jacked, he's not topless, he's just wearing this like Aquaman looking suit, and I'm like, I want it to be the Godfather. Look how he massacred my boy. Because he's supposed to be this jacked king of the oceans, and now he's like, I don't know what he is.
Dude, they have that shot in the trailer where he swims up to Ariel, and every time I see that, it's like I don't even think it's on the screen for a full second, but when they show him, every time my brain is like, is the CGI glitching on this part. It looks so bad.
Yeah,
I can't
very
believe
possible.
that they're. I mean, I can, but I can't believe they're
Mhm.
fucking doing this to this movie. Like,
I know. It's gonna be ridiculous. It's gonna be a
it's going to
nightmare.
be a nightmare,
I mean,
but it's
I
probably
can't
going to
wait.
rake in some decent dough, and I kind of need something at this point. So I guess that's what I'm going with.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be worse than like. I mean, Lightyear was surprisingly not as helpful as I thought it would be last
Yeah.
year. It could turn out to be
Dude,
that, but I guess we'll see.
Lightyear was like, I've never watched it. I don't want to watch it, but from what I've heard,
Mhm.
like unanimously not enjoyable.
Yeah. That seemed like it should have been so easy to make something that's like the thing that everybody loves, Toy Story, and they seem to have ignored a lot of the parts of that people love about it.
Yeah.
Kind of a weird decision.
Good job, Disney.
But oh well, that's kind of where Disney's at these days. Have you seen anything new
No.
in the last week or two?
No.
Okay, I have. I've watched. I've been trying to get caught up as things start coming to home video from the theaters. So I've watched Dungeons and Dragons. Yes, I said home
I
video.
know. I'm proud of you. It just took me off guard.
It's just how I think of things, whether I'm streaming it or not. I didn't buy it on VHS.
I'm not
Don't worry.
judging you. It just took me off guard.
But I did watch Dungeons and
Yeah.
Dragons, and I'm very glad that movie made $200 million.
It's just entertaining. Wasn't it just the perfect kind of just mindless, like fun, enjoyable film?
It was so fun. It was fun, and it was just a great time watching it. I feel like it did a really good job following the Guardians of the Galaxy model, where it's a ragtag group of people going on an adventure. There's a lot of excitement and peril, but at the same time, you're never too worried that anybody's in real danger. And like it definitely could, but it doesn't go too far. And so it's just a fun adventure movie.
Yeah.
I really liked it as just like, and it was very accessible, like you said, as a Dungeons and Dragons movie. You don't have to know anything about the games to enjoy it. But it's also, I thought it did a good job of capturing, this is this character, this is their class, like the sorcerer and the fighter and the bard and all these people had specific classes, and you could see, I really enjoyed kind of being able to see their stat sheet through their acting. I think it's possibly my favorite Michelle Rodriguez role I've ever seen.
I'm with you
just
on
seeing
that
her, seeing her as like a low intelligence fighter or barbarian character. She was very much like the Drax kind of the group, where she would just have these comments that were just hilarious. I really enjoyed it. It was really funny. So yeah,
I'm glad
I hope
you
they make
enjoyed
more
it.
of it. I thought it was really, really fun. And then I started watching a show called Silo on Apple TV, Apple Plus, whatever it's called these days. It has Rebecca Ferguson. It has Tim Robbins. Tim Robbins? Yeah, Tim Robbins. For some reason, I thought that I just said Tim Meadows, and I was confused. It has quite a few people in it, a handful of people in it, but mostly it's about the first lady I said, Rebecca Ferguson. And it's really good. It's really interesting. It's about these people that live in a silo underground, and they have been there for a really long time, hundreds of years, and they don't really know anymore why they're there, because there was a rebellion like 140 years ago, and during that, people wanted to escape and let in the poison gas or whatever outside, and that was put down. But in the process, all of their like documents and stuff were lost or whatever. So nobody really knows why they're there, but they keep going. It was really interesting. And then towards the end of the first episode, both my wife and I were like, this sounds so familiar. I feel like I've seen this in a movie or a show. I feel like I know this. And then we unlocked a memory that we had completely forgotten that we had. It's based on a book series. And we had started the book series on a road trip years ago.
Oh shit, really?
And I was super interested in it, but we didn't get terribly far. I think we finished the first book, and that's about it. But I was really enjoying it. And it's called Wool, I think, is the series. If you've ever read that, you know what Silo's kind of about. And yeah, it's really good. And then I also remembered I really was interested in that book series and never finished it or really did anything with it. The audiobooks were good too. But yeah, so Silo is good.
Cool.
It's only like 4 episodes out, I
Okay.
think. And then not new at all, but kind of new to me is we started watching. I got all of the episodes of the Dick Van Dyke Show.
Oh,
and
nice.
I've only seen a handful of them over the years, so we started watching like from the
Holy
beginning
crap.
all the way through. And it's just like a fun thing to have on, especially on with a young kid. It's just family friendly, easy to put on if we need like a downtime moment. And it holds up. It's so fun,
100%.
so funny. Such a great time.
When I remember when I was like pretty young, TV Land. I don't even know if that's still a channel or not.
Yeah, I watched a lot of it.
But I used to throw on TV Land all the time, so I remember watching that was how I watched the original Munsters when they were still black and white before they did like the color movie. Old Addams Family, Sanford and Son, the Dick Van Dyke Show, the Mary Tyler Moore Show, old episodes of I Love Lucy. Kids, I know you have no clue what the fuck we're mentioning right now.
Gilligan's Island, you've probably heard somebody make a joke about Gilligan's Island.
Watch Gilligan's Island. I loved watching TV Land. Some of those old shows they were always just good, just enjoyable.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need that, kids. Sometimes.
Leave It to Beaver, classic. Yep. Yeah, they're all good.
Andy Griffith Show.
Oh yeah. So yeah, I really
that's awesome, dude. That's really cool.
Yeah. Okay. Before we get into the episode, one more new thing. Speaking of new things that we've seen, you may have seen. Speaking in the future when this will have come out, we have by this point brand new merch in the store.
Oh yeah.
So we've totally refreshed the merch store. It's been a while since we've had new stuff, and we wanted to do new stuff, especially for summer. So check it out. We also will have it all listed on Instagram, but I think it's really cool. It's a total redesign of the Boners Day, Doomsday Clock logo. A little more minimalistic style. We've added some new stuff too. We have a kid's shirt now, tank tops for the summer, and of course a new pint glass. You got to have a beer glass if you're doing movie boner stuff. My favorite thing.
Yeah, this thing's awesome.
We have a new all over print hoodie, which is sick. I'm a big fan of it. And we also added stickers that match that as well. So that basically all the apparel. Also added puzzle. We mentioned a little bit at the end of the last episode.
There they are. Look how awesome those puzzles are, kids.
Dustin is the biggest puzzle nerd you will ever meet. So we turned the movie photoshops of us that we've put into movies into puzzles. And those are fun. This day. Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. Finish up.
I was just going to say this one on the bottom is also a puzzle, which I call the Surely You Can't Be Serious puzzle, where it is the all over print. I don't know how you're going to accomplish that, but I said, if you put this puzzle together, definitely tag us and we will shout you out, because that's a feat in itself.
I am honestly, I think I've always said this. My favorite Photoshop that we have has always been the lighthouse.
Yeah.
And seeing the lighthouse as a puzzle just makes me so happy.
Yeah, I knew you would like that. I also really like the Casablanca one. I like all of these, honestly.
They're all amazing.
Yeah.
They really are. And that Forgetting Sarah Marshall one is when you sent me that image, couldn't stop laughing.
Yeah, that one is on the nose. I think that's kind of the whole premise of the show. So yeah, that's almost everything. There's one more thing. Wait, there's more. If you have seen the film Accepted, one of my favorite shirts that we're also adding to the store is based on that. It is the Ask Me About My Wiener shirt. Ask Me About the Movie Boners shirt, where just not Jonah Hill is dressed up as a hot dog. And I'm a big fan of that. I want to add more things like that are references to movies, but fit our style. So we'll be thinking about those kinds of things.
We have some. I've had a few ideas cooking up, and keep a lookout, folks. We got some cool stuff coming.
Yeah. So yeah, go and get any of those. It helps us out. We don't plug a lot of things. We don't have any ads that we read. We don't even qualify for other people to play ads on YouTube or whatever. So every little thing helps. If you don't want to buy anything or whatever, just subscribing on YouTube. If you have a Google account and you don't,
that actually goes a long way. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, if you don't even listen to us on YouTube, but you have a Google account, it helps if you subscribe to us so that we can build up our numbers and then eventually someday qualify for those things. But until then, this is what we're doing, and it's going to be a good time.
Right. It is a good time.
Speaking of good times, do you want to have the best time ever?
Oh my God, I'm so happy.
So I am so excited to talk about The Room. I've wanted to talk about it on this show for a really long time. And
so long.
And I kind of just forced it into the schedule and said, we've got to do this now.
I can't believe it took us this long, although I'm glad it did now that it's like the anniversary release of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
That makes me happy. Before we get into dissecting this film, though, dissecting this movie, I feel like we can't properly talk about The Room without talking about how we heard about it, came across it, that first time watching it. I think you've had better luck introducing other people to it, whether it was just your wife.
Yeah.
But I feel like you have to talk about the experience itself.
Yeah.
It is one.
It is a very memorable experience. You will not forget the first time you watched it. My experience with introducing other people to it, specifically my wife, was mostly tricking her into it, where I had heard a lot about it. I had obviously known a lot about it. I've heard people joke about it. I've heard other podcasts talk about it. How does this get made? Is a podcast. They talk about a bunch of bad movies, and they're really, really funny at it. You should definitely check them out. But so I kind of knew the gist. I knew it was crazy. I knew Tommy was crazy, but I'd never actually seen the movie. And so I was kind of just tricked my wife into watching. I was like, we should watch this. It's a weird movie. I might have even told her it's a bad movie. I don't think so, though. I think I just put it on. And we were in the middle of watching it, and I was kind of chuckling, and she was like, what the fuck is this? Like, really confused, trying to take it seriously is, I think, where it was at. She was like, this is a movie. I need to watch it. I need to think of it as a movie. And it was very confusing. And about maybe 30 minutes into it, she finally laughed at something that was ridiculous. And then she's like, okay, I think I know what's going on here. And then she more or less had a good enough time. She would not say she's a fan of it. She watched a little bit of it with me while I was preparing for this. So she just was like, what the fuck is happening in this? She's like, is he autistic? How did this happen? There's a lot of stuff going on. But yeah, it was very interesting and entertaining, and it's so hard to follow, and it's so hard to believe that this movie actually was created. Because if you tried for the rest of your life to make a movie that was this bad, you could not succeed.
You would never do it.
It's such a unique and specific thing that nobody can touch. It's just so perfect how it is.
It's so weird to like compliment the movie because it's so bad.
Yeah.
But you cannot deny that it's legitimately a success story. In the most weird, ironic way I think possible.
What was your experience with it?
Oh man. I think you had seen it before me. I think you were the one that had like kind of talked about it, of just being like, oh my God, this freaking movie.
Mm-hmm.
And it was you. I had heard it on a couple podcasts like you, and just a few jokes with like fellow movie nerds.
Yeah.
And so I also am one that follows, like, I like looking up future projects that people I'm a fan of. Like, what do they got coming down the pipeline? Like, that will potentially be a project I'm going to watch.
Yeah.
Because not all of them actually make it all the way through, or it's some, like, whatever indie thing that's 10 minutes long that I'm never going to watch and no one else will.
Yeah.
But it's fun to see what's coming up. And I remember seeing on Seth Rogen's The Disaster Artist and being like, oh, I wonder what crazy movie Rogen's got coming up. And all it said was like, based on the making or based on the book The Disaster Artist, about the making of The Room. That was the whole synopsis. And I was like, Seth Rogen's doing a book adaptation? Okay. I don't know why, probably because I'm just not good at searching the internet. I'm just not. I don't know. Like, I need the simplest like directions when it comes to the internet.
You need Ask Jeeves to come back so you can be like,
I do need
excuse
Ask
me,
Jeeves.
Dear Jeeves, can you please find this for me?
If you get that reference, we can be friends.
Yeah.
But I did eventually find it on YouTube. It was the full movie. And I was like, all right, let's watch this. So I put it on. I was sitting there. I was like, got comfy. Was all right. Let's see what this movie's about. And for the first 6 minutes of the movie, which feels like forever the first time you watch it. All I kept thinking, I had a couple thoughts. One was like, it's so painfully obvious this is a cheap set, which I felt was a weird thing to be able to like notice in a movie.
Yeah.
And then I was like, am I accidentally watching like a porn? Because the acting in this is very reminiscent to that style. And if you've seen the movie, then you know, like, shortly after I was having that thought, there was a scene, and I was like, oh dear God, what am I watching?
Yeah, when the music comes up and it's like, and you're like,
it's
oh
like a
no.
full song. You're like, wait.
It is the like cliche-est, sexiest music, and you're like, oh
my
dear
God,
what am I about to watch?
And we're going to get into everything that made us laugh about it. But I did start laughing during the sex scene, kind of uncomfortably, because the scene just goes on and on and on and on.
Weird
and there's
things
like weird
it.
rose play and aiming is
askew.
Off.
Yeah.
It's doesn't quite work. And I think that was when I started to laugh. And then as the movie progressed, and I could not stop laughing at all of the entrance lines. The, oh, hey, insert name here.
Yeah.
By the time the movie ended, I felt broken in a way of like, I can't tell if I need to be laughing hysterically or if I just witnessed the absolute worst thing ever put on camera.
Yeah.
And I wanted to hate it, but I couldn't, because I'm a sucker for bad movies, like B movies like this. And I also kind of had that like inkling of, well, you're a big fan of Plan 9 from Outer Space, which is still like the reigning champion of B movies.
Yeah.
And I was like, if you love Plan 9, which has, although it's so terrible, there was so much like, you could tell there was so much effort put to just get it made. Then you kind of have to feel the same way about The Room. And as soon as I had that correlation, I was like, oh, I'm a fan. And then I found myself like, I'll probably be able to go the whole time without watching it again. Maybe rewatch it after I see Disaster Artist.
Yeah.
No, I found myself shortly after that being like, I don't know what to watch. Going to YouTube, found The Room. I was like, we're going to watch The Room again.
Yeah. Tommy's not going to like that you're watching it for free, by the way.
I know. I found it on YouTube. I'm sorry, Tommy.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Tommy, take it down. Yeah, it is a very bad movie. Undeniably bad. Everything technically about it is bad. Acting is bad. It's a bad movie. Through and through. It has a 3.6 on IMDb, which is an inflated number because there are over 23,000 fans that gave it a 9 or a 10, which is obviously not true. But at the same time, you can't. It's hard to call it a bad movie because it is so watchable and enjoyable, and it's brought a lot of people a lot of joy, and they've had a lot of fun with it. I saw someone online call it a cinematic paradox, which I think is the best way to describe it, because it is bad on every level, but it can't really be bad if it's enjoyable and watchable and everybody has liked it. So it's good at the same time. It is bad, but it's also very, very good, undeniably good. So I think that's the best way to look at it.
I just imagine Tommy Wiseau is genuinely laughing every time he goes to these screenings or gets asked about it. I'm not convinced that's his real laugh. I think he has like a permanent character for the public. I'm convinced.
You think it's like the old Chinese magician in The Prestige?
Yes.
This is the trick.
I do. I genuinely do. I think it is. This is the act.
Okay. I was going to ask you, because I think a lot of this conversation is going to be about Tommy Wiseau as much as it is going to be about the movie.
I mean, it'll be a lot about Tommy, but you're not going to learn anything about Tommy.
I have looked. I was like, has anybody figured it out by now? What's the answers? It's still.
I only found 2 actual definitive answers to Tommy.
Okay.
His like actual where he was born and what year.
Yeah.
Everything else though, especially financial related, like you will not find the answer.
Yeah. Nobody knows where his money came from, how he's able to do this. He will still never admit, even though people have done extensive research into his background, and they do believe that they found where he's come from, and he's from like a city in Poland, and he was born in like 1955, I think. He's really old. But he will never admit that. He's like, I'm a young, cool guy, and I'm from New Orleans, and I'm always an American citizen like everybody else.
I wear like 5 belts at the same time.
Yeah. And he looks old. Like he's obviously old. Watching him in The Room, I was like, I would guess he's probably 50. And he was basically about 50 when that came out. Nowadays, I think he's like 60 something based on that. 68 this year. Yeah. So
yeah, he's up there. He has to be up there.
He's a weird guy.
He's probably like, you know what he probably is? He's probably like a legitimate immortal. And that's why he can't disclose like where the money comes from. Cause he's like, this is the current lifetime. I'll have another lifetime for the next set of currency.
Yeah. Yeah. People joke that he's a vampire, which I believe he's dismissed and say he's definitely not a vampire, but nobody's asked him if he's a Highlander. He might be a Highlander.
A Highlander now.
He could be.
See, I tried to keep it generic and just went with immortal. Like the dude's just not going to die.
I want to get answers.
But I like the idea of him as Highlander. Oh my God. Can you imagine Tommy Wiseau wielding a sword?
I can, and it's incredible. But yeah, I was going to ask you if you thought how much of it is sincere, how much of it is put on, how much of it. I don't think that he's anybody's fool. I think that a lot of people in interviews and things, they think that oh, this guy believes too much in this thing and believes it's good when it's obviously not, so he's an idiot or he's whatever. I don't think true.
He's an idiot.
No.
I think he's actually probably very intelligent. I think it's all the act. I think, you know what it kind of reminds me of? You know how there's, and don't worry, it's just how my brain works. It's one of those moments, kids. So, you know, in The Office, one of the big fan theories is that Michael Scott is actually incredibly intelligent, and everything he does on camera is just the character that he has. But he's actually very calm, very intelligent. He's always like dialed in. I think that fan theory is the exact same theory I have for Tommy Wiseau, but in a real world. I think he's probably genuinely nice. I think he's probably crazy sincere. But I think this is the character that he just picked one day for whatever weird reason. He probably really leaned into the mystery of it because, I mean, it's been the biggest part of his fame is the mystery, and then the room, which just the room adds so many layers to the mystery. So it's almost like he just understood on such a crazy level how he was going to pull off becoming this incredibly famous success story, doing something that would get like looked down upon or mocked. But who's the fool? The guy that made this movie that like should never have seen the light of day past that first screening, or, you know, everyone that doubted him. Cause I'm like, it's 2023. They're still doing screenings. They're still selling out. And they're crazy popular.
Right. And I think it is extremely clear that it is a huge success for him, just based on the fact that he made this movie that everybody mocks as being bad, but it's still being shown, still being loved, still having public events and all the stuff you just said. Meanwhile, a movie that was made about the making of it, The Disaster Artist, is extremely well made, very funny, has tons of celebrities in it, had a big budget, won awards. And nobody is seeing that movie. Nobody is talking about that movie regularly. Nobody's going to screenings of it yearly.
Right.
Like, it's just one of those movies that will never reach the level that The Room has reached already.
There's a on the making of The Disaster Artist, and I think they even, if I remember right, they start The Disaster Artist with one of the celebrities talking about just like Tommy and the movie itself.
Yeah.
But on the making of feature on the Blu-ray, there's more of them that talk, and they bring up a very similar, pretty much the same thing you just said, where they're like, no one is talking about last year's Best Picture winner. In fact, on average, no one even knows what movie won in the last like 5 years.
Yeah.
But people are still talking about The Room. You mention The Room and people immediately are like, oh man. When I mention the movie Room, I always have to clarify, because I always say it around someone who will perk up and I go, no, not The Room. Room.
Yeah.
Like, you have to clarify this.
Yeah, because it is more successful than that massive, very well written, very well executed Brie Larson
because
movie.
It's just, for some reason, this movie clicks. There's, to me, as the person who is always looking for like the deep meanings, who finds like whatever, there's none of it in this movie.
Yeah.
But it's just fun to watch.
Yeah.
And you quote it. The more you watch it, the more you're quoting it, the more you get excited for certain scenes. I mean, there's an 18-second scene that is amazing, in my opinion. The mom is my favorite character. She has my favorite scene.
I definitely have breast cancer.
I like that you knew exactly what the scene was.
Oh, it's the perfect scene. You know, that's extremely true. It's so bizarre that this movie exists. Everything that goes into it. I think part of the reason it's so successful and interesting and people enjoy watching it is because it's not one or two weird things that happen, or it's not a big crazy plot point that happens. It's all the time throughout the movie. There's like every decision that was made was the wrong decision throughout the whole thing. And then it goes beyond the movie, like we were saying, like there's a mythology that has arisen, and a legend about Tommy Wiseau and the filmmaking and mystery around all of that, where he got his money, how this happened, all these people that got fired, different versions of stories about what it was like to make it. And all of that, I think, leads to people just being so interested in it, even though it's just a silly little movie about the simplest story. That if you can figure out what the story is about, it's pretty
I was about
simple.
to say, I like that you just tried to tell everyone what the movie's about. No one knows. I've watched the movie several times. I watched it 3 times in 1 week, twice for preparation, a third time because I was like, why not?
Yeah, what else am I going to do? Not watch The Room? I did
You're
write down.
tearing me apart, Lisa.
One of my
Don't
notes,
you know what life is?
one of my notes is prepping for this and watching this movie multiple times was more confusing and more difficult than when we watched Tenet 5 times, preparing for that and figuring out all the different threads. The problem is this movie has threads, but they don't go anywhere. Like
Anywhere.
the mom will bring up she has breast cancer and it's never mentioned again.
The mom's brother is wanting a share of her home.
Yeah. She's like the queen of bringing up subplots that are not concluded in any way.
Chris
or even
R.
continued. Chris R. is
Chris R. alone.
the best
It's
actor
like-
in the movie. Like when he comes on, you're like, oh, I believe this guy all of a sudden.
Yeah. He does do the best job. I want to know what their jobs all are.
Mhm.
There's talk of I have to call a client. A client for fucking what, Lisa?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
So, yeah, I picked that up on one of the viewings I watched it, and I was like, wait, she has clients? She has a job?
She has a job? She like never leaves the living room except to
Yeah.
go upstairs to the bedroom to have sex. But this place has no kitchen.
Mhm.
There's no doorway to a kitchen.
Yeah. So, do you think The Room, the title, means anything, or were you able to derive anything? Is it just the apartment room, which I think is the most obvious answer, or is there a bigger meaning to you that you think?
So I bounce back and forth. I kind of figure it's the room simply because the main set piece is the living room of the apartment.
Mm-hmm.
But then I kind of feel like, and this is based solely off of watching The Disaster Artist, which is based off of the book by Greg Sestero.
Yeah.
And I forget the other guy's name, but he wasn't a part of the making of, so I just kind of like,
Fuck him.
yeah, leave him out of it. And the fact that they had the real Greg Sestero and the real Tommy Wiseau on set, they were in constant conversation with them, making sure what they were putting on film was accurate, which I think goes a long way. I think there's probably a couple parts, obviously, that are embellished, but for the most part, for as accurate as they tried to keep it based on what the real people were telling them. I kind of feel like Tommy probably titled it, and I laugh about this because this is something I would do, titling it The Room based on the final act of the movie.
Okay.
Being like the great American drama.
Yeah.
I could see him doing that. Which to me would just allude more to the like, oh, this guy's on. Like he like this is purposeful.
Yeah. And it also sounds art housey in general.
It sounds art housey. It sounds mysterious. So
Yeah.
you're gonna be like, oh, what's The Room?
Mm-hmm.
Or he literally could not come up with a title and was just like, I mean, the movie plays out as if he didn't even finish a full draft and just kind of made shit up as they were going. He was
Yeah.
just trying to say, like, look what I have.
He's just winging it.
But Greg Sestero read the full script. So
Hmm.
obviously there was a full script. I don't know.
I think that's the answer, and that's the answer we'll say a lot is I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know.
I think that Tommy has said The Room is about relationships, and The Room is the kind of the place you go within yourself, which might be true. The thing about Tommy Wiseau, though, and part of the reason I think you might be right that he's I think that he has an intention initially.
Mhm.
I think that he has very little experience, very little skill in that thing, and that's why you end up with a shitty movie. I don't think that he intentionally made it bad and made it funny. I do think
Like
that
at all.
I do think that he wanted it to be sincere and a drama
Yeah.
and a classic drama like that. But I think that he's not disconnected enough to like commit to that. He saw the success of it and goes with the flow. And he's like, yeah, no, I meant the entire time for it to be a black comedy. And,
Right.
And this is exactly my perfect vision of what it should have been. This is my intention. And it just kind of goes with it and plays it up and sees
Yeah.
I think the most important thing that he wants is the attention. And this is what's bringing him his attention. So he's just going with it and rolling with the flow, which good for him, honestly.
He's leaning into it
Yeah, nothing
a
wrong with that.
lot. But it keeps working for him.
Yeah.
20 years and it's still like notorious. I mean, it's got a reputation.
Right. So I guess we should just talk about the movie, more or less. I think we'll bounce around a lot. We'll still talk about Tommy. I think we'll mostly talk about The Room. At least that's my intention.
I feel like that'll happen. I'm a big fan of The Disaster Artist. Like, genuinely love that movie. I think it's a touching story, actually. I think the relationship is really cool to see how these two guys who just they actually went and created a dream. Or man, I bounce back and forth because I feel like Tommy Wiseau always wanted to find fame somehow.
Right.
And I think he
American
figured,
dream.
well, it's the American dream. I figured, to me, he probably joined the acting classes just to kind of figure out, like, trying to get a foot in the door.
Yeah.
Right. And I think what gives him a lot of credit to me is he becomes friends with Greg Sestero. And then the way I perceive it is the room, everything was initially to get Greg like a career in Hollywood. And Tommy just kind of was giving him those like stepping stones. Yeah, it's a bad movie. And yeah, Greg Sestero's career never like blew up after it, which I guess is kind of the price for if you star in a bad movie, people will love it. But then they're like, but we've seen you act, dude.
You're that guy. You're always going to suck.
You're that guy. But part of me thinks that the whole thing was really just a friend helping another friend out and just kind of like, hey, if this works out for both of us, cool. If it only works out for one of us, cool. And I kind of really like that, where it was just like, to me, when I watched The Disaster Artist and then bounce back and forth, because I have a hard time watching one without the other.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah, and that's why I think it's impossible to talk about one without the other.
Yeah.
Because this has never really happened where you have a movie that is well known, that everybody has heard of and seen, and then they make a movie about the making of that movie, but it's not like a documentary. It's like a comedic, dramatized movie, and so you can't talk about one without the other one adding context and backstory and stuff to it.
Yeah, and there's a lot. I like when I watched The Disaster Artist and then bounced back and watched The Room that first time, I remember just being like, I enjoy The Room even more now, just knowing like some of this stuff. I haven't gotten around to reading the book. I really want to. And prepping for this, I was so mad. I was like, how the fuck have I read this book yet?
Yeah, I haven't read the book either. I did a little bit of YouTubing of how does the book compare kind of thing. And it seems like The Disaster Artist as an adaptation to the book is somewhat different, as often happens. And the main thing is that they added that kind of story that you're talking about, where it's about these friends who chase their dream, and they're an underdog, and they just believed in his dream hard enough, and it ultimately came true, which is really enjoyable and fun story to experience. But it sounds like the book is much more of it's not a comedy, it's more of a tragedy, where it's confused about Tommy. He struggles with himself encouraging Tommy, like, should he encourage this guy to make this terrible thing that he knows is bad? That's very questionable. And there's a lot of more mystery around Tommy. I think the movie, The Disaster Artist, kind of humanizes him and fills in the gaps where you're like, I get this guy, I like him, he's a good guy, where he's still kind of a very unknown in real life kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, The Disaster Artist is from Greg Sestero's perspective. There are other people with their own perspectives, and Tommy with his perspective. Tommy has said The Disaster Artist is only like 40% true. He doesn't agree with it really. The book, he doesn't believe that the book is that true. It's about 40% true. He supports the movie, The Disaster Artist. He said it's 99.9%. He supports it. And I think it's primarily because it does make him look good, and it makes him look not crazy and humanizes him, and it's a genuinely positive story. Which is funny,
because he still comes across as like, this guy is out of his fucking mind, and where is he from? It's not New Orleans. To me, he still comes across crazy, mysterious, wacko, but they do humanize him. He is sympathetic. But everyone in that movie is sympathetic to me. Pretty much. And it's kind of funny, like, going back and forth and watching both, back to back, because you're like seeing certain scenes that you saw him showcase in Disaster Artist play out in the movie, and you're like, man, if it was really like that on set, like, and then you sent me that documentary that you found, which was crazy awesome timing, because I was like, I know there was a documentary made, like, by Tommy. He hired another guy. This is well known. It's like, I gotta try and find this documentary, and I was like, I gotta try and find it for recording. And no joke, it was that next day, dude, you sent me the link, and I was like,
yes. I just found all this behind the scene footage that he had shot and put together. It was just up on YouTube.
Now, granted, watching that documentary, when it ended, I was like, that doesn't show like anything. No. What the fuck?
I think it was like what was it, like 20 minutes or something?
It's a 20-minute video. They give you the original The Room soundtrack, which made me laugh because it's just the sex songs.
The best ones, you mean?
And then it's like the guy filming the documentary only followed the guy that played Denny for the majority of the 20 minutes. It's all Denny scenes, and I was like, this is like a weird version of that Love Actually scene where the best man only films the bride, but now it's this like documentarian only following the actor that played Denny.
Yeah.
Like, that's all he did the whole 20 minutes.
And that they've talked about the fact that he has tons of footage, like he shot everything.
Well, and at the end of it, they tell you, like, they give you that screenshot of, like, if you want to see more, you have to contact Wiseau Productions or Wiseau Studios, whatever it is.
It does say that he will give you more footage if you contact him, which made me curious, but I have not contacted him.
It's so weird, this movie.
Before we get into, like, spoilery stuff and tell everybody to stop listening if you've never seen The Room, one of the funniest things to me, though, is that this movie was made on a budget of $6 million. And it's watching the movie, you're like, that's insane because it's obviously so terrible. I can't believe you spent $6 million on this. It gets even crazier when I started looking up, okay, what movies were made with a budget of less than $6 million? And their movies like Get Out was $4.5 million. Donnie Darko was $3.8 million. The Witch was $4 million. All that period stuff, only $4 million. Whiplash was 3.3. Moonlight, Best Picture of 2016, $1.5 million.
Oh my god.
The original Saw, 1.2. The original Halloween was under $400,000. Clerks was $27,000, which I feel like this movie should have been like at the Clerks level. No, this Clerks was $27,000. And of course, Paranormal Activity was $15,000 before Paramount changed the ending for $200,000 more. All those movies, 1,000 times better than this movie. Like money does not buy you good filmmaking is the answer.
That was one thing watching that making of, because the shots that Denny is not in, it's like walking around the set and seeing all the equipment, the dual cameras. I laughed so hard when you see the dual cameras every time, and you see them a few in that documentary, because I was like, oh god, it's true.
Yeah, it's like when you're taking a trip that you've never taken before and you overpack everything because you don't know what you need. You've never done this before. You're like, I'll just take everything. That's what Tommy did, where he's like, he just goes into a camera store, doesn't rent anything like you normally do on a first movie,
Right.
buys everything, buys 35 millimeter camera, lenses. He needs a different crew, needs different lighting, all the stuff for that. Also an HD camera, lenses, HD crew, and then has them build a custom mount to put them side by side together. And he thinks he's being like changing the film industry by being so ingenuitive. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But
I was laughing so hard when they show you the rig. I was just like, are you fucking... Because I was, having not read the book, that scene in The Disaster Artist to me was like, clearly this didn't actually, like, this has to be that fake scene where they're just trying to get you to believe how crazy this guy is, or how like he's just winging it.
Yeah.
Nope. Seeing that rig, I was like, oh, he fucking did it. He really did it. And then I found myself going, why is the costume department so huge? Because there's racks of costumes. And I was like, your characters wear the same two outfits the entire movie.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, and they kind of hint at in The Disaster Artist him like getting frustrated and firing people, but I don't think anybody actually gets fired in it. In the room, apparently he did fire a bunch of people and throughout the production, and so he would fire main actors, and so they'd have to do a bunch of reshoots with the new actor, and so that also adds to the cost a lot.
You know what? That $6 million. When you start looking at some of that stuff, you're going, yeah.
Yeah, the main actress, Lisa, which I'm not trying to be mean, but she's not as attractive as the entire script says she is. So it doesn't make a lot of sense. She's not the original actress. Apparently there were like 3 or 4 understudies, and she's one of them. After the original actress got cut, then she kind of filled her space. And so yeah, lots of people got fired, and it was just a train wreck of a production.
You can't tell.
You can't tell at all. It doesn't even come through on the final product. What a story. So let's actually talk about The Room. If you've never seen it, you should stop now, because we're going to spoil it and make it unenjoyable for you to actually see it. You need to experience it.
You gotta experience it.
We're not going to do it justice, honestly.
Yeah, the opening scene. First shot. Well, we'll skip the opening credits because it's just...
Who cares?
Yeah, it's San Francisco. and you see Tommy riding the trolley.
Mhm.
Which, did you notice him the first time you watched it?
No, I didn't know that was him at all. I was like, oh look, there's a trolley.
Yeah, he's on the trolley
Mhm.
going home. He does not have the roses with it, or the gift. Sorry, the roses are later. He doesn't have the gift. He's just sitting on the trolley. But yeah, so the real scene. Interior, cheapest designed set ever.
Oh, hi, Lisa.
Oh, hi, Lisa.
Oh, hi, Johnny. The way that it's about these two people. I'm going to try to explain the plot of this movie because I'm pretty sure I understand the gist of it.
I think the genuine plot of the film is it's this couple that are on two different pages. He's in love, she's not.
Right.
It's got infidelity, and it's just too much for him.
Yes. I think the theme of the movie is about this man is betrayed in every way possible. He's betrayed by his future wife, not fiance, future wife, betrayed by his best friend, betrayed by his adopted son, and I think that's pretty much everybody that's betrayed him. The bank rejects him for his
betrayed
promotion.
By the job for the promotion.
And so it ultimately leads to his death by suicide. He kills himself at the end of it.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert, by the way. I feel like I said that. So yeah, it's about this man named Johnny, who's a banker, played by Tommy Wiseau, with very long hair, who is the weirdest looking dude you've ever seen, but he's also jacked, which makes him a good leading man.
It is off-putting how jacked he is.
It's like, how does this body go with the weirdest face I've ever seen?
but we digress.
Yeah, good for him.
We haven't even made it past the opening two lines.
But he has a future wife, which is Lisa, who's living with him, and he is in love with her. She is not in love with him anymore. She has decided and is about to, in every scene, say, I am not in love with Johnny. I do not love him anymore. She is in love with Mark, which is Johnny's best friend.
Right.
And Johnny has a neighbor named Denny, who is his adopted son, basically. Quote unquote.
We got to throw quotes.
Not legally adopted, but Denny has no parents, and Johnny has paid for his apartment nearby and paid for his tuition. And Denny gets into some other trouble, which we'll get into later. And those are the main characters, basically.
Stop getting up on me!
So in the first scene, Johnny and Lisa are Johnny comes home from work. Very basic. Johnny comes home from work.
It's super basic.
Gives her a gift. Gives her a beautiful red dress.
Surprise for you.
Anything for my princess.
Dude, the look I cannot get over when he gives her the gift, right?
Mm-hmm.
They do that shot from her left shoulder. She's opening it. The look on his face while he's waiting for his next line is so creepy.
Yeah.
It's like, why would you look? It's like he zones out, and it almost as if the DP or someone off screen was like, smile, Tommy. And he goes,
yeah. He's just like,
right. And then she's looking at the judge. She goes, can I try it on? Of course, it's yours.
Yeah. So she puts on the dress, comes down, and enter
on the couch.
Yeah, he's like this, enjoying anything for my princess. Enter Denny, who just opens the door.
Just comes in.
Oh, hi,
Denny.
Tommy.
Oh, hi, Johnny. Oh, hi, Denny. Oh, hi, Lisa.
Everybody's surprised to see everybody in this movie. And he just walks in, and they're like, all right, hey, Denny, what's up? And he's like, oh, wow, you look, Denny's saying this, wow, Lisa, you look really beautiful in that dress. Cue drooling, which we'll get to later. And they're like, oh, Denny, you're so cute. We're going to go take a nap, quote unquote.
Yeah, Johnny's like, I'm going to go upstairs and take a nap.
Mhm.
And Denny, not Lisa, Denny goes, oh, cool. Can I join?
Yeah. And yeah, so they don't make Denny leave the house. He just
No.
stays downstairs eating an apple.
Yeah, they're like, Lisa's like, I think he meant like, we're going to be together, Denny. And okay, you want to be alone. And they
so
go upstairs.
He just stays downstairs eating an
Stays
apple
down-
for a minute and then goes upstairs, and they started pillow fighting without him, which is weird. That's not something you normally do before a nap or before sex generally.
Right.
Maybe I'm doing it wrong. I don't know. And then Denny jumps in the middle of them, obviously wanting to join their pillow fight.
And they like tickle him and they're giggling.
I think Tommy's going for a happy American family is what he's going for, but it's so creepy the way that
it's so weird because immediately you're like, who and how old
yeah.
and why
And yeah,
and
you
what?
are not part of this family. You're some kid for one thing.
Right. And they actually tickle him instead of being like, what the hell are you doing, Denny? No,
Yeah.
they're like, oh,
This is normal.
yeah.
The creepiest part for me is when they're like, oh, Denny, what you gotta go now. And he's like, I just like to watch you guys. Like that's a direct line, is I just want to watch you guys. And they're like, and then Johnny's like, well, 2 is company, but 3 is a crowd. Get out.
Yeah. Denny like reluctantly grabs his shoes, which when did he take his shoes off?
Oh, you
And
always
goes
take your
back
shoes off before a
downstairs.
pillow fight.
And then we get the first scene. And it's there's weird dancing on the bed.
It's the most
Johnny's,
romantic scene you've ever seen.
It's something. His suit jacket magically appears and then disappears, and then he takes it off because the editing, there was no continuity.
No, there's no such thing as continuity in this movie.
And the rose shows up, and
Yeah.
they're like playing with the rose, and then is it just me, Jake? But there's that shot where Johnny's laying on the bed and Lisa's like propped up on her elbow, and he like undoes his pants.
Yeah.
Right? He undoes the belt and the zipper. I don't know if it's because you normally don't see that in a movie.
Yeah.
But for some reason, when I see it in this one, immediately I'm like, ew.
Yeah. I think it's partly because he is at this, and so you don't want to see that generally.
And you don't know what you're going to see and what you're not.
You're very, this is a low budget, independent, extremely independent movie. Anything could happen. So you are a little concerned at this point.
The song that's playing is just so off-putting. And then
it's a very long scene.
The sounds that don't
mostly his sounds.
He makes a lot mostly his sounds that don't actually sync up.
No.
With what you're seeing on screen.
No. And awkward. Everything is awkward in this scene.
Everything is awkward.
The positioning, there's too much humping. And the humping is like off to the side and up.
It's like not even centered. Did you notice that? Like, it's not even, you can't even say like belly button area, but it's like her
over
like left leg or left like
hip, upper hip.
Yeah.
It's
like in this range.
There's a very specific amount of,
and there's like thrusting,
lots,
like
long time
slow
period. I had to clarify.
It's like
it lasts a long time.
It goes forever, and I feel like we're not doing the awkwardness justice, but that's okay.
You see a lot of his butt is a part of the awkwardness.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the sheets on a lot of it, but it's like
Not enough of it, in my
No,
opinion.
not enough. It's like the worst sex scene I've
No.
ever seen.
And if you don't like it, well, too bad, because you get to see it again
Get it
later.
2 more times.
It's the third sex scene, but there are 4 sex scenes in this movie. The third sex scene is basically a copy and paste mostly from the first sex scene, because it has all the same water through glass scenes, and all of it's the same.
I'm so glad you brought up the water through glass. It's supposed to look like it's rain. It's like that episode of Friends where Joey is staring at it. Is exactly that. And it's so bad that he genuinely put this in a movie during a sex scene, 2 of them. Just when you're like
at this
cringing,
point, you finish.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
At this point, you feel like Johnny and Lisa are in love. He brings her gifts. They have sex when she gets home from work. It's very long and drawn out and romantic sex. They must be really in love. Cue next scene where she's literally talking to. Is she calling her mom in the next scene? Or talking to her mom in face to face, or is she calling Mark?
Her mom is face to face. All conversations are face to face with her mom. Her mom comes over, and Lisa is like, "I'm not in love with him anymore.
Yeah,
he's boring."
Like, what? He had sex with you for like an hour. What more do you want from this guy?
He's buying you shit you don't need. What is your deal? Yeah, but we are introduced to the best character of the movie.
Dustin's favorite character, Claudette, Lisa's mom.
I love the mom.
She does have a ton of backstory, and her general gist is you should stay with Johnny because he is financially secure and will take care of you, and you kind of need that, so you should continue to plan on marrying him at some point.
Yeah. Now, my favorite scene with the mom is not this scene. It's a couple scenes after this, but this one is so fun. The entrance and just the conversation between the two. Her mom, very much, every scene after this one, including this one, is all, well, Johnny is a very nice young man. And he said he might get a promotion.
He's very financially secure.
But Mom, I don't love him anymore.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, the mom does not do a good job of convincing her to stay with Johnny.
No, because her mom, who comes over to visit, which, like, anyone whose parent has come to visit them knows the visit is gonna be for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but the mom shows up and is like, all right, I'm fucking off. Like 2 minutes into a conversation. Now, granted, Lisa does tell her, like, or no, that's the next mom.
Later,
scene. Sorry. Yeah.
She doesn't have a client yet.
Yeah. But yeah, so Lisa is butthurt that her mom wants her to stay with Johnny because he's financially set somehow. But Lisa's not in love with him. So Lisa calls Mark.
She immediately calls Mark.
Immediately.
It's been 2 minutes since she had sex with Tommy and they were in love. And she's like, "Hey, Mark, I love you."
She calls him up. He picks up the phone and her greeting to him is, "Hey, baby."
Yeah.
Which to me is like, oh, they've been sleeping together for a while.
Yeah, okay. They are in the middle of an affair at this point.
Or so you think.
So you think. It seems like it. She says she loves him. She says all kinds of stuff, invites him over.
Yeah, telling him, "Come over. I have to see you. I need you." And he's like, okay. He comes over and, like, she's seducing him with the music, the wine, and he even says, like, "What's going on here, Lisa?"
Yeah. It becomes apparent that she's seducing him for the first time. She's trying to, like, literally seduce him for the first time.
Right.
like they're like, we shouldn't do this. I'm best friends with Tommy.
Johnny is my best friend.
Johnny, obviously,
We can't
Johnny.
do this. And she's like, oh, yeah? And then he's like, we need to do this. And he stuffs his tongue down her throat.
Uh-huh.
Now, just real quick, because I was confused
Uh-huh.
the first few times I watched this movie and prepping for it, I knew
Understandable, yeah.
that this scene was confusing to me. So I was like paying very close attention to the dialogue
Okay.
to be like, I know the boom must not have been working very well when they recorded dialogue
Oh, yeah.
because it sounds bad a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So I was like, I must have missed a line. So I fucking cranked the volume up when I watched this to make sure I wasn't missing something. I wasn't. It's just bad writing. But I started thinking, I was like, okay, so Lisa calls Mark up. Hey, baby. She's saying all this shit, right? Come over. I need you. I was thinking, if he's Johnny's best friend and Johnny's future wife calls him up and her first words are, hey, baby, and he does not immediately like red flag, like the fuck? It's like something's wrong, because if any of my friends, like, now this made me laugh because I was like, one, she would never say these words to like anyone, but I was like, if Christy called me up and that was her first words, I'd be like, bitch. No.
Like, no.
We're not doing this. And then it would be on the phone with you.
Yeah.
Christy would never do that. Like,
I know.
I knew, like, it made me laugh
It's
when
such
that
a
went through, like, the
random-
example.
Yeah.
But I was
You
like,
try to think of
what?
like, how do best friends actually behave with each other? How does
Right,
best
and I was
friends and their
like-
spouses actually interact with each other?
And that was what went through my head. I was like, okay, so Jake and Christy are like my best friends. Like, we've known each other forever at this point. Like, we're able to joke around in ways other people might not. And I was like, but Christy wouldn't even do that. But if she did, and it made me laugh just the idea of it, I was like, ugh. But
yeah, it's such a weird thing. And yeah, he is very much not at all concerned with
at all
really trying to avoid it. And he talks a little bit about how Johnny's best friend, but doesn't really try to avoid the affair at all.
Like at all.
And then later, he basically blames her for all of it, blames her for seducing him like it's all her fault. And that's kind of another really weird part about it. It's like,
right.
You were like, there, bro.
You were kind of for it, dude. Like, this is on you too. But yeah, so Mark makes out with Lisa and cue the music because
I thought
when
you called it making out, you're doing what Mike does, where he calls every sexual interaction he has with his girlfriend making out. They make out and more on the stairs.
And you're thinking, didn't we just finish one awkward sex scene?
You're like, it's
you
been
did
15 minutes into the movie. I'm in our second sex scene. That's ridiculous.
And guess what? This one's shorter, but just as weird.
Mostly because Mark keeps his pants on the whole time. But they still have sex. It's just that the actor was uncomfortable and didn't take his pants off.
It's so weird. It's so weird.
Yeah, so they're fulfilling their love that they are now exploring, I guess you could say. And
when that scene ends song, because you get another song, not the same one, it's a new one.
The problem is Tommy's way of filming the movie is that every sex scene needs to last the whole song. And so that's why they are such long scenes, is because the song is already 2 or 3 minutes long on its own.
So he's got to fill that time in. He needs a movie that's at least 90 minutes. So this is what we're doing.
Yeah. But once that's concluded, I mean, they talk about it. He's like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. And then they kiss more anyway. And nothing really is ever resolved there. But
there's no real guilt there at all.
After that is the best scene in the movie, in my opinion. It's it's so short, but it's my favorite, where Tommy goes to the florist. He walks in. He says, I'll have a dozen red roses, please. And then the lady's like, oh,
hi, Johnny. I didn't recognize you. Here you go. I didn't
recognize you. And apparently, this guy, who's the weirdest looking guy you've ever seen, most recognizable, when he takes his glasses off and puts them up on his forehead, you immediately realize, oh, it's Johnny. I didn't know.
It's Johnny.
And every sentence is out of sequence. It's edited. I don't know if it's 80 yard. What's going on? It sounds like it's 80 yard. But then the lady's like, it'll be $18. And he's like, oh, thank you very much. Oh, hi, doggy. You're my favorite customer.
Now, we did not do that justice, Jake. I like, no offense, but you cannot recreate the scene. Well, you can. We can't.
Okay, do you want me to act it out?
No, I don't.
Johnny walks into the florist. Hi, can I help you? Yes, can I have a dozen red roses, please? Oh, hi, Johnny. I didn't realize it was you. Here you go. That's me.
No, you got it.
How much is it?
Yeah, you got to do the.
It'll be $18.
How much is it?
Here you go. Keep the change. Hi, doggy.
Oh,
you're my favorite customer. Thanks a lot. Bye.
The scene is 18 seconds. I timed it.
And then he carries out the flowers upside down.
Upside down. Best detail, to the point where I was like, how is no one else? Like, everyone comments the, oh, hi, doggy. Yeah. I'm like, why is no one commenting he carries a dozen red roses upside down? I don't know why, but it's so weird.
Yeah. It's very bizarre. And anyway, the point is, he's buying flowers for his girlfriend on the way home from work.
For Lisa.
After having bought her a dress yesterday. He's the nicest guy. Why would you not be
Was it yesterday or is it the same day?
It could be the same day. It definitely could be the same day.
It is hard to tell what the timeline of this movie actually is.
Yeah.
Because the sun never sets or rises.
Yeah, you start going a little crazy. Part of the reason that I feel like, so obviously, I'm not the only one who thinks that Lisa is a sociopath. She is an insane person who doesn't feel any emotion. She's a crazy person.
Yeah.
Part of the reason I think this is because in the next scene, she's ordering pizza. And the pizza she orders is the craziest pizza you've ever heard of. It's half Canadian bacon and pineapple, which nothing wrong with that. I like a good Hawaiian pizza. That's all well and good, but that's
Don't
half
at us. It's okay. Pineapple on pizza's a thing. Get over it.
It's half Canadian bacon and pineapple, half artichoke with pesto, and light on the cheese. And this is the pizza she wants to get. I don't know which side is for her and which side's for Johnny. Maybe it's all for her because she's a selfish, conniving bitch. But in either case, she's crazy for ordering that pizza.
Mm-hmm.
And that scene needs to be in the movie. The pizza's never delivered.
It just magically appears, but it is not the pizza that she ordered.
No, the fact that she's ordering pizza doesn't matter. They could have just had pizza on the table. It doesn't matter at all. Now, you have to listen to it in the movie.
You have to listen to it. And then, oh, hi, Denny. Oh, hi, Lisa. And this is one of those moments where you're like, ugh, did he say that? Like,
can I kiss you?
You look real pretty today. Oh, thanks. So, can I kiss you?
Which is a normal thing to do with the lady who's...
Did he just say that?
Who's about to marry your somewhat adopted surrogate father, and you regularly wrestle and fight on the bed with.
And she goes, Denny, you know I'm with Johnny. And he goes, I know.
But she's also not. She said she doesn't love Johnny at all.
Kind of a bitch. So, like a 2-time bitch.
Yeah. At least she's not a whore. She's not just sleeping with everybody that hits on her.
Okay.
She's in love with Mark, at least, and that she's faithful for the moment to Mark, which is something.
Is she? Because she still has sex with Johnny.
Well, yeah.
In fact,
he's
she like
buying her gifts and paying for her rent, and
in like less than 1 minute from Denny asking to kiss her, she tells Johnny, "Make love to me."
well, it's not. I mean, there's an excuse here because Johnny gets home, gives her flowers, and then tells her the bad news, which is that he did not get his promotion.
Did
at
not
work.
get the promotion,
even though he saves the bank so much money, and they've already put all of his ideas into practice.
They've already implemented my ideas.
They're not going to give him the promotion, and so she has even less reason to love him now.
So she goes, "I know what you need." And Denny goes away, and the pizza magically appears.
Mm-hmm.
It is not Hawaiian. It is not anchovies and pesto.
Artichoke and pesto.
Or artichoke, yeah, sorry.
Light on the cheese.
And it's not light on cheese. In fact, it looks like a straight up cheese pizza. So
it's because it's cheaper.
Yeah. But she tells Johnny, like, "I know what you need." And she brings out, I don't know what these drinks are.
So the consensus online is that it's a mixture of scotch and vodka, which people call scotchka. That's not a drink that I don't think it's a real drink, for one thing. But for second, it's not a drink that you give someone who just said, I don't drink.
Right. Speaking as, and I'm not generalizing, but speaking as someone who used to
mix random alcohols
in a lot of alcohol.
Yeah.
I always had the sense of not mixing vodka with scotch.
It seems like it's a no-brainer.
It's a no-brainer. Like, I don't care how blackout drunk you are. Like, you see those two and you go, no.
Yeah. It's the kind of thing you would do if you wanted to kill someone. Which maybe she does.
Maybe she does.
This is her whole thing.
Either way, watching her pour the vodka into, I guess, scotch is painful to me every time for several reasons. One being like, ew. Yeah. And two being like, you clearly have never poured a drink because that ratio is
she has not even paying attention to ratio. Who cares?
And she hands it, and Johnny's like, I can't drink that. She goes, "Come on, Johnny, try it. You'll like it." And he takes like the tiniest sip, and he goes, "You're right. That tastes good."
Yeah. And then through the magic of editing, they are now drunk and clinking their glasses together, and he's spilling all over, and she's wearing
the tie. And she like sits down on the couch. That's her. "Make love to me, Johnny."
You got nice legs, Lisa.
You got nice legs, Lisa. You have nice pecs.
You know how you normally compliment each other before while you're drunk. And and then he talks about how much he loves her, and then they have sex scene number 3, which is a lot of the same thing that you saw in sex scene number 1.
Sex scene number 1. It's still
just as long.
Bad.
The rose shows up again randomly.
So much rose play.
I've never heard anyone say rose play, and it's kind of uncomfortable when you say
it should be. God damn it.
Is that a thing?
I don't know. I'm making it a thing. You know what? I don't want it to be a thing.
Hashtag rose play when you comment on this episode.
It's so bad.
It is bad. So after that, what happens after that? What are they doing?
Well, the next mom and Lisa conversation.
Oh, yes.
Which is my favorite scene of the movie. You already quoted it.
Uh-huh.
But the mom's talking to Lisa about that jerk. Oh, crap. I forgot his name. Hold. Damn it. God damn it! I missed it. I'm
Uh,
so.
And so
Oh, here
Lisa
it is.
says
Here
that
it is.
she's.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I quoted it in my
Okay.
notes because I love this interaction. So the mom says, "That jerk Harold, he wants me to give him a share of my house. I didn't know you could give shares away for homes.
Oh, sure.
Sure. That house belongs to me. He has no right. I'm not giving him a penny." And Lisa says some stupid shit. Because no one cares about Lisa at this point. And the mom comes back with, "Nobody wants to help me, and I'm dying." "Mom, you're not dying." "Nope, I got the test results back. I definitely have breast cancer."
That sounds
Look.
pretty definitive.
"Don't worry, you'll be fine." End scene.
I imagine that test was not like an at-home from the internet test. It
Like-
sounds like a real doctor's test.
We have seen so many movies of so many different calibers, like quality, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Never, ever have I seen a movie with a scene that has a very serious subject come up and no one bats an eye. No one gives a fuck, including the person with the bad news.
Right. That's I think the clue to how bad the acting is in this movie is that nobody listens to anything that anybody says. And that's like acting is listening, listening is acting. That's like a thing that people talk about. Listen and react to what somebody's saying. Nobody does that. They wait for their line, and then they say their line, and then they wait for their next line. And so people will say something, and then the reaction has nothing to do with what just was said.
Like, in the slightest. I love that scene so much. I get happy when it's like coming up because it's so poorly executed.
Uh-huh.
And it's so ridiculous. And it's just, there is not one good thing about that scene. And it makes me so happy that it's in this movie.
The premise of the scene is that Lisa is planning Johnny's surprise party, and she invites her mom to it. And she's got a little notebook, and she's like ready to like,
yeah, because she tells her
plan
like,
it out.
"You can bring someone."
Yeah, and that's what she talks about Harold in the house and all that stuff. They just say the randomest shit. And then she brings up Harold, she brings up her breast cancer, she brings up Edward, Lisa's brother.
Yep.
Who the mom has heard that Edward is talking about her, and it's just there's random subplots that this lady brings up constantly.
But the mom's part is done in the scene for the most part. And then Lisa, it's almost like a hold my beer moment in this scene of like, bunch of stupid shit just got said. Let's top it with Lisa.
Yeah.
And Lisa chimes in with, "Johnny got drunk and he hit me." Now, if you're in a situation where like your child has just told you that their partner hit them, you would respond fairly like, "Oh my God," right? Like that would take complete focus. You'd be angry, all that.
It's very similar to if somebody admitted they have breast cancer. Similar reaction.
Right. But the mom doesn't even give a shit that her daughter claims domestic abuse. The mom goes, "Johnny doesn't drink."
Yeah, she trusts Johnny more than she trusts her own daughter, which, may be fair, honestly.
You know what? That tracks.
Yeah.
That tracks.
But it becomes clear that Lisa did intend to get Johnny drunk, and that's why she gave him the scotchka. And I guess hoped that he would actually hit her, even though she doesn't start anything other than having sex with him. So she just decides to lie about it instead.
Yeah.
And that's the gist of the scene,
And-
is that she starts telling people that he's abusive.
Yeah. And in true The Room fashion for character exits, the mom goes, okay, I'll be off now, and leaves.
Yeah.
She hasn't
exit
even
stage
drank her
right.
full cup of tea. Like, just fucks off.
Yeah. She's the most conscientious of her daughter's time.
Now, the next scene, I feel you can argue
I know I said
in a movie full of just random ridiculous shit, this might take the cake.
I know I said the flower shop scene was my favorite scene, but this one might be my favorite scene.
This is so bad. And this is a scene where you could argue, like, I think the actors in this scene thought it was like a porn
Yeah.
with how they act in this scene.
Yeah. Yeah. There's no explanation that is rational for how the acting occurs in this scene. Two actors you've never seen before enter the living room, and just hanging out, sit down, start talking, start making out a little bit, and talk about like, how much time do we have? Oh, I don't know, we should just get on with it. And then they pull out some chocolate that they
pull out a
have,
box of chocolates, and
which is, as you know, chocolate is a symbol of love. That's not just
it's also
it's a line of dialogue in the movie. Chocolate is a symbol of love.
And chocolate is also kind of difficult to eat quickly. And it's pretty like...
That's true. I've not tried to think this hard about it, but yes, that's true.
Well, I think about it because she shoves like 2 or 3 pieces in his mouth.
Yeah.
And he hasn't even finished chewing. And you can tell.
Well,
you can tell.
you
Like,
could tell.
oh, we made a mistake.
But maybe that explains the faces, because
Does it, Jake?
He's in the middle suddenly of a blowjay, and making the most ridiculous faces you can possibly imagine.
His face is the funniest fucking thing. It is so...
It's all over the place, constantly.
And then,
like,
she doesn't even like go all the way down. Her head is like still at his like midsection, right?
Yeah.
And that's when he does the satirical guy look in a movie during a blowjob where the eyes get big. He just
rolling around in his head and mouth, and everything is going everywhere.
The works are there, and her head is still in frame.
Yeah.
Over his stomach.
Yeah.
Like,
Not
again,
moving much. We
the
literally
aim
just
is...
started, and yeah. Yeah, I don't know. This guy has never had a BJ, or I don't know.
I think he's probably, to this day, I'm still convinced he's still chewing some of that chocolate. But they're like, they don't get very far, and then the mom and Lisa come back.
Yeah, they get interrupted by the mom and Lisa, and Lisa's not concerned at all that there's 2 random people in her house, having sex or starting to have
She
sex.
flat out says, "Oh, they come over sometimes to do their homework."
And the mom's like, "What homework?" She's like, don't worry about it, Mom.
Don't worry about it.
Kid stuff.
If I was a pervert, you'd be my best friend.
Yeah.
That's a direct lie.
I think she says burglar. Because she's like, you just let
she
any...
says pervert.
Maybe I hoped she said burglar, because I thought that it was like, oh, you just let anybody into your house all the time.
Maybe she does say burglar. It's hard to tell. The audio is not that good.
Yeah, sound could use some work. And then Denny comes over, and he
just
talks.
Let anybody come over?
Literally, yes. This random street urchin has now walked into our living room.
Which is the only moment in this movie where I feel like someone dropped character, and that was the actual old lady actress being like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, I don't understand why these people would come to Johnny's apartment. I don't understand any of what we just saw, but it doesn't matter, which is good. You don't
Doesn't
have to
matter.
really find an answer. But yeah, then Denny comes over, and then Lisa tells her mom all about Denny's story, that he doesn't have any parents, and Johnny basically adopted him, bought him an apartment nearby, and loves him like a son, and all of that stuff.
And then
Oh yeah, and then Mike comes back and looking for his underwear, and it's like, oh, I forgot my book, and grabs a book, and then the mom, Claudette, finds the underwear and is like, is this yours? And there's a whole funny scene that happens. And if you enjoyed that scene, it's good because it will be retold to you when Mike goes to see Johnny in a little bit.
In a little bit. But first, we are introduced.
Every scene on the roof. Every scene on the roof is my favorite scene. You may be able to tell I have a lot of favorite scenes in this movie. But Chris R. Is it Chris R or Chris R? Chriser?
No, it's Chris R. They decided to say the first letter of his last name.
That's his name, not just in the script or in the cast list, but in the lines of dialogue in the movie. People call him
the line of dialogue,
Chris R. Yeah. And so he is a drug dealer who has come to collect his money from Denny, because Denny's on the roof just bouncing a basketball, as kids do, as college kids do. I feel like he's in high school.
Is he high school?
That's my impression, at least of the character.
I have no clue how old this kid is.
The character feels like he should be in high school.
He feels like he should be, but who knows? But yeah, Chris R. is tired of waiting on Denny. He wants his fucking money right fucking now.
He's a little intense, but I think that intensity takes you out of the terrible movie and puts you into a movie where you believe this character is a real character for a second.
You're like, whoa!
The best actor in the movie. His intensity is very strong. And yeah, he assaults Denny and demands his money, and he pulls a gun on him.
And Denny's response, I love the attention to detail with this response, Jake. It makes me so happy.
Nobody's ever praised the room for its attention to detail.
They're on the roof of an apartment building where Denny has clearly been bouncing a basketball mindlessly like a child does.
Clearly.
And he tells a drug dealer with a gun in his face, just give me 5 minutes and I'll get your money. I love the detail of this. I'll just let you figure that. I'll just let it be. I love that. Just give me 5 minutes.
5 minutes. Specifically 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
That's all it takes. Luckily, Denny is rescued because Johnny comes running in and Mark comes running in. We don't know
Johnny,
where they were.
Mark, Lisa, and her mom all suddenly appear on the roof.
Yeah. We don't know where they came from or what they were doing, but they were all nearby. They come running in. Johnny and Mark grab Chris R. And Johnny's like, we'll take him to the police. And then they take him down the stairs.
Chris R. puts zero fight into this. He just accepts his fate and lets these two random dudes lead him downstairs.
Mm-hmm.
And Lisa, I used to think and joke that Tobey Maguire has the cringiest cry face. Thank you, Spider-Man 3. But then we see this scene with Lisa and Denny, and it's really hard to tell who has the worst crying face in a movie.
Yeah, she's really trying to sell it, how concerned she is for Denny and how close he came to death, apparently.
And Claudette is ripping into him like a mom or a grandmother will.
Believably. Yeah.
Yep. And Denny is upset. He feels a little attacked.
Claudette says that he's doing drugs, which might be true. I don't know if that he owes money to Chris R because he's selling drugs and didn't
But
give him
he
his
tells
money.
them that he's selling drugs because he needed to make some money.
Yeah.
He needed the money. I don't know.
But we don't know if he has a drug addiction or anything.
Or
And
what drugs he's doing because
will
it
never
doesn't
know.
matter. They're gone.
You'll never know. It will never come up again. This whole
What
scene.
drugs, Denny? It
this whole-
doesn't matter.
Yeah, Denny does say that doesn't matter, and he's right. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
The whole subplot comes up in this scene and is concluded in the same scene.
You say concluded.
Concluded
I
in the
say
sense that it's over for the film.
it's dismissed without
Yes.
a thought.
That's true.
Yeah, my favorite part of this scene is Denny flat out being like, "Stop kicking up on me!"
Yeah, and Johnny comes
I'm
back and
convinced
he
he
kind
just
of,
wanted to have his head rest on Lisa's boob. That's my
oh, for sure. He's
he
very
does it a
upset
few
when Johnny
times.
very upset when Johnny comes back and puts him on his own shoulder, and he's like, "Oh shoot, I'm on Johnny's shoulder now." But yeah, Johnny tries to take him under his wing, and he's like, "There, pal, it's gonna be okay," kind of thing.
Stop kicking up on me.
But the next scene is still on the roof. This is like the best sequence of events. Mark and Johnny are now hanging out on the roof. I'm pretty sure Mark's wearing different clothes, if I'm not mistaken, just from memory. It's probably a different day, but it's hard to tell. They're just on the roof. Mark's just, he's hanging out. He has a football. We haven't talked about the football yet.
We have not. So we've brought up the basketball that randomly has an appearance, but the football also has several cameos.
Prominent appearances.
Yeah.
Yeah, main character.
But it's not. It hasn't served its purpose yet, but it keeps showing up. Denny usually is the one tossing it around to himself. Yeah.
This is a tease where they're just kind of talking about girls, and Johnny and Mark are talking about how, girl problems, how to locker room guys will just talk about girls. Mark is talking about how girls can be weird and manipulative, and he doesn't understand them. They can even be evil at times, and Johnny doesn't really understand what Mark is talking about at all. And then he starts talking about Lisa a little bit, and it kind of upsets Mark.
Yeah. But Mark is constantly upset. From the moment he has slept with Lisa, he's pretty much upset the rest of the movie, as he should be.
He should. He betrayed his best friend. Yeah.
Yeah. What a motherfucker.
Well, yeah. But, it's not like he's cutting off the relationship or anything.
Not even a little bit. Yeah. So they talk on the roof for a little bit. And then, oh, shit. There's one more cutscene here. I think it's Lisa and Mark. Or no. The next one is Johnny and
Denny comes up.
Huh?
Denny comes up to Johnny on the roof after Mark storms out.
That's right.
And Johnny's like, well, Mark is obviously upset because he's talking about Lisa and stuff, and then Johnny's like, "Don't worry about it. Forget it." And he storms off, and Johnny doesn't really notice that he's upset. He's like, "Yeah, well, whatever." Obviously he's having a bad day or something. But then Denny comes up and he starts talking, confiding in Johnny, his circuit father, and he's like, "Lisa, I think I'm in love with her." And he's like, "Go on." He's like, she's beautiful, and I want to kiss her, and her in her red dress, she's so beautiful, and go on. Where is this going?
And Denny's like, "You're not upset," and Johnny tries to give Denny this great life advice based on love, and finding the beautiful woman and trust and all this.
Mm-hmm.
And trying to encourage Denny, like, not Lisa, though. Lisa's with me.
Yeah.
And he's like, but you're not upset? And he's like, no, of course not.
Yeah. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. She loves you like a person, like a human being.
It's like being put in the friend zone by
Yeah.
the boyfriend. And
Yeah.
it's just the worst. And then they have like their conversation about that. And then Johnny suggests, like, I forget the lady's name, Elizabeth. He goes,
Yeah.
well, what about Elizabeth? And Denny walks to the edge of the roof. Man, I love her. I think after I graduate, I want to marry her and have kids. I'm in love with her. I find it amazing, and I wish I had that superpower to be able to confess my undying love and immediately turn around and be like, you know what? Undying love for this other random chick that will never show up.
Yeah, you know what? She's all right too.
And then Johnny's like, see, love. And they go walking off. And Denny says one of those lines that, like, to me was, it's one of, how do I put it? One of those cementing lines where you're like, wow, the script writing and the dialogue writing is just the worst.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for paying my tuition, Johnny. You're welcome, Denny. Like, the fuck is this movie?
Yeah, it's so that you know that Johnny is A, successful, and B, kind. And he has
very kind and
zero
generous.
flaws. He's the perfect person.
He's the perfect dude.
Yeah.
And this movie is such a, like, vanity project.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's true.
So, yeah, they leave. And then we got the alley scene is next, right?
No, Lisa and Michelle talk.
That's right. Lisa
Michelle is
opens up to Michelle,
her best friend, who was giving Mike the faces earlier, and she basically starts telling her best friend Michelle that Johnny got drunk and hit her also.
Yeah.
And so she's spreading this rumor all around town, basically.
And by town, you mean the 4 people that
Are
come
in this
into the
friend
house.
group. Yes. Yes. All of the main actors are being told. But Johnny walks in from work.
Well, Michelle kind of gives Lisa a little bit of a tongue lashing of, like, you have to talk to Johnny. Like, if you don't love him, you gotta talk. Now, everyone tells Lisa you have to talk to Johnny,
Mm-hmm.
which is fine.
Right.
Why isn't anyone telling her you should end things with Johnny?
Right. That's
and
the
then
natural progression.
pursue being a 2-timing bitch.
Yeah, it seems like the natural thing to do, to just end the relationship if you're saying, I don't love him, I don't want to be with him, I don't want to marry him.
Right. But
That's all you
instead,
can do.
Lisa's like, I stay with Johnny and I hate Johnny. I love Mark.
You know, I said continuity is not a thing in this movie. This is one of the best scenes for it, because she's always either reaching for her drink, or she doesn't have a drink, or she is putting her drink down, or she has a drink again. Like, her whine as she's talking to her friend is constantly, doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
And then, Johnny walks in on Michelle and Lisa saying, well, this will be our secret. And Johnny walks in. Oh, hi, Michelle.
Yeah, did you buy a new dress? And then, but yeah, Michelle.
I was like, she's not wearing a dress.
I don't know what he's talking about. But Michelle excuses herself, and then Lisa kind of starts acting cold towards Johnny, where he's like, hey, baby, how's it going? And he's like, well, you know, I'm excited to marry you. And she's like, are you sure about? Oh no, he says something like, you're my future wife. She's like, are you sure about that? Because
Right.
I might change my mind. and then they have kind of a fight, but not really.
it's a weird moment.
You could say that about any possible scene in this movie,
True.
but it is a weird moment. Yeah, and she kind of like just starting to, I guess, maybe lay the groundwork for their breakup.
She's testing the water. She's dipping her toe in the idea
Mm-hmm.
of maybe potentially
Mhm.
sometime down the road in whatever future somewhere might
Yeah.
think about ending things with Johnny.
Yeah. And Johnny, even though she says a lot of crazy stuff and starts to be really mean to him, he's like, you know what? I still love you. Don't worry about it. It's going to be okay. Good night. I love you.
Yeah. And you're like, I feel like this warrants a little more than
Mm-hmm.
that, but it doesn't apparently. And
then you have the alley scene
then we're in the alley. Yeah.
where
Yeah.
Mike comes and tells Johnny all about how he was making out with Michelle in his apartment and lost his underwear. I don't know why I did quotes. He literally does lose his underwear.
He lost his underwear.
and Johnny enjoys the story. I guess that's the whole scene of that.
That is the whole scene. Yeah, Johnny. Like, I've been very close to friends. I feel like all of our friend groups have always kind of had that like open door kind of thing with each other. Like, hey, you're welcome to just come in. We all still knock.
Take our underwear when we leave. Oh yeah, knock also.
And we make sure our underwear is with us when we vacate the premises.
Yeah.
But we don't like. I don't think we've ever just walked into someone's home, gotten some nookie, and then
made faces,
and then went and told the person, "Hey, I went and fucked in your house."
Yeah. And
cool story, bro.
Your future wife's mom found my underwear and showed everybody to them.
Right. And he's like,
I love Johnny's like, oh, that's life.
And then we get, is this the most famous scene of the movie?
It's close. It's definitely.
I feel like it is.
It may be.
I think
it definitely
is.
may be.
And for good reason, because it is glorious in so many ways.
Yeah, it doesn't get any better than that.
Johnny comes storming onto the rooftop. I did not hit her. I did not. It's bullshit. I did not hit her. I did not. Oh, hi, Mark.
Oh, hi, Mark. We skipped over a short scene where
we did.
He overhears her and Lisa and her mom talking and saying all this stuff.
But that's not yet.
It's
He
not
doesn't
yet?
record them yet. No.
Oh. Okay.
Because Mark
I
tells the really dark story on the rooftop, and then Johnny overhears the mom and Lisa. Yes. Yeah.
What a story, Mark.
Yeah.
That's
so
funny.
Oh, hi, Mark. And Johnny walks over. Mark's sitting on the rooftop, waiting for his cue to say his line. And Johnny sits down. I don't know why she say this. Lisa say I hit her, but I did not. And Mark starts questioning, like, do you think women like to cheat like guys do? Which kind of
like
bothers me as...
It big time bothers me. It's like there are a lot of things in the movie that are wrong in the sense that it's either very cliche or there's a lot of misogynistic things about women, just assumptions or stereotypes or things that he says. But then there's also this one, which is the opposite of, everybody knows all men love to cheat. Do you think women are like that too? It's like, whoa, wait a second. Nobody agreed.
Like every time, like, okay, Mark, we're gonna pump the brakes here.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I don't know where maybe you do, Mark, Mr. Cheater McCheaty Pants.
Like, not all guys like cheating.
Yeah.
There's a good chunk of us that are very adamantly against it. You're an idiot, Mark. You should have put the gun in your mouth at the end. Oh, spoiler.
Oh, spoiler. Yeah, no, it's true.
But so Mark gets up and he's questioning women again, and Johnny does his. He's in this pose a lot.
Yeah. It's because it's his relaxed, waiting for his line pose.
True. And Mark actually delivers like kind of a dark story about domestic abuse.
Yeah.
And Johnny's response, crazy story, Mark.
Yeah, he's like, there was this girl who got beat up and left like at this hospital and all this stuff. And after hearing this, Johnny's like, oh, what a story, Mark.
What a story, Mark. And you're like, who fucking laughs at that story?
No, nobody's laughing. That's serious.
So bad. It's so bad.
Yeah, none of it makes any sense.
I'm not going to lie. One of the things I was looking forward to the most recording this episode was knowing you and I would be doing just a stupid amount of impressions of Tommy.
Yeah. Every time he laughs, like during the movie, that seems to be his go-to reaction as an actor.
Yes.
It's just, even though it doesn't fit most of the scenes of the movie. And so every time he does it, I can't help it. And I've been like practicing all week. It's so perfect.
Yeah, so then the crazy story, Denny comes back up, and this is your football. You finally get your football. Which people, we say football, but it's really just catch.
Catch with a football, which is a very American pastime. And he's a very American man and American actor.
But it's not just catch. At least this first scene. It's like, you know, when you are tossing a ball around with like a 4-year-old,
yeah,
and you have to like gently lob it up for them. It's like that with grown men.
Yeah, not just grown men though. Grown men in tuxedos.
Oh yeah, that's coming up. That's coming up.
But the football scene in tuxedos is the best part.
It is the best part. But the first like catch game that they start mentioning is there with Denny.
Uh-huh.
And then we have to have the fight first.
We do have to have the fight first.
We have to fight. Tearing me apart, Lisa. I can only imagine my neighbors have to be like, what the fuck is he saying? Because the walls are kind of thin here.
Uh-huh.
And I know they can hear me.
Yeah, that whole scene, which is maybe his most acting his heart out scene, where the rooftop scene is probably the most well known of the I did not hit her, I did not. Oh, hi, Mark. That switch from dramatic acting to hi, Mark is just so funny. And he doesn't really sell it. But in this scene, in the fight in the house, he's trying to like confront her. He's like, I didn't hit you. I don't know why you're telling everybody this. Meanwhile, he does push her down onto the couch twice, which is not the way you want to, not what you want to do when you're trying to convince somebody that you didn't hit them and you're not ever going to do that.
And he does have to throw in a James Dean impression.
It's true.
By quoting James Dean.
It's a direct ripoff of James Dean in what's that movie? I ripped it.
In that one movie, the Streetcar Named Desire.
No, he's not a Streetcar Named Desire. That's Marlon Brando.
Oh, fuck. It's late. Don't judge me.
James Dean in
Rebel Without a Cause.
Rebel Without a Cause. Thank you. Yes, he literally says, "You're tearing me apart." The exact same way that Tommy Wiseau does in this movie.
But Tommy Wiseau follows it up with, he does the, "You're tearing me apart, Lisa.
Yeah.
Do you know what life is?" And that's the second push onto the couch.
Yes. Yeah. So that whole fight, I mean, it doesn't go great, but they don't break up either.
It also doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah. I think that's the main thing to note. It doesn't go anywhere. They don't break up. They just kind of end the conversation.
It's true. We'll call it good there.
Yeah. They do have a conversation with Peter. Peter is the dorky friend with glasses.
Yep.
Who?
Yeah, because Peter has to have his conversation with Mark before your tuxedo scene.
Yeah. So either
right before
Johnny goes to Peter because Peter is a psychologist, or he plays psychologist. You don't really know. He says both things. Important to know, Tommy Wiseau studied psychology in community college, allegedly. So I imagine he gave a lot of direction to Peter on set. But he basically tries to get him to they have this whole conversation is problematic on a lot of levels. But they talk about his relationship between him and Lisa, and then Mark comes over and he starts talking about, "Oh yeah, I don't understand women at all, and I have this problem with this girl who's married." And and then Tom is like, "Oh, can I meet her?" And he's like, "No." And he's like, "Well, are you afraid I'll steal her from you?" And it's very uncomfortable for everybody involved, not just the audience. But the funny thing about Peter, and the main reason I brought him up before we get to the tuxedo scene, is because several times people call him a chicken. And when they call him a chicken, it's like full Arrested Development, where everybody's like, "Cheap, cheap, 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 cheap."
cheap.
Which nobody in America does that, which makes you feel like Tommy Wiseau is not from Louisiana somehow.
He can't be from Louisiana. Cheap, 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 cheap,
cheap, cheap. And so they do that again in the tuxedo scene. And it's so hilarious.
But yeah, so after the conversation between Mark, Peter, and Johnny, Peter and Mark have a conversation on the rooftop.
Yeah, a heated
which is where Peter is like, "You're sleeping with Lisa." And Mark gets very irate and mad at Peter for guessing his secret.
He seems to contemplate murdering his friend because he literally pushes him over the edge almost.
Right.
He's like,
oh no,
he's leaning him out over the edge, holding him by the collar. Seems like he wants to throw him over for a sec.
And then he doesn't, and he takes it out on the little table by the chairs because he slaps the shit out of it.
He does the outdoor patio furniture.
Yeah. And the scene doesn't go anywhere.
If it sounds like we're jumping around a lot, we're not. That's just how the scene ended.
That's just the editing of the movie.
They
argue. Mark
apologize.
threatens to kill Peter. Peter's like, "What the hell, man?" And Mark takes it out on patio furniture. And then that's just...
Yeah. He does say he's sorry. He's like, "I'm sorry, man, for trying to throw you off the roof."
It's true.
And
true. At least they make amends for potential murder.
They make amends so that they can have the tuxedo scene.
So that we can have the tuxedos, which is another confusing scene.
Oh, it's so confusing because the first time I watched it, I was like, "Oh, we're getting close to the wedding."
I thought is this tuxedo fitting or is this wedding day? Holy shit, has a month already gone by in the movie?
Yeah.
No.
I'm glad you paid attention that they say we're getting married in a month at the beginning of the movie, because it's very hard to tell.
It's very hard to tell. No, they're just wearing their tuxes.
Yeah.
And Mark walks in clean shaved. He's babyface now.
You babyface. Yeah, and it like zooms in on his face like it's a big reveal of Mark doesn't have a beard now.
Right. It's like plot point for no reason.
Yeah. It's like they wanted to establish continuity for the first time in the movie, and we're an hour into it already.
And they're like trying to figure out what they want to do. They're looking at each other in the tuxes that don't quite fit well.
Oh, I mean, not at all. It doesn't, not even close. But you're so
And
confused. You're like, are they going to a wedding? What are they doing?
they're
And
just wearing tuxes.
Denny suggests playing football, and Mark's down. And they ask Johnny. He's like, ask Peter. And Peter's like, no, I can't. We're wearing
No
tuxedos.
way.
That's silly. Why would we do it in tuxedos? Oh, what are you, a little chicken? Choop, 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 choop. So, of course, they go play football in the alley.
In an alley.
Wearing tuxedos. And poor Peter trips and falls and scuffs.
Yeah, he goes for a long pass from Mark and trips and falls. And they have to lift him up. Oh, shit. I just remembered.
What?
Okay, we'll get to it.
Okay.
Peter trips and falls. They get him up and goes, I think I'm done for the day. And the first few times I watched it, I went, why are you wearing the tux? Like, you can't leave for the day because it's a wedding. And then you're like, it's not the wedding. And you're like, why are they wearing tuxes? Is it to be ironic? Is this a hipster thing? I don't get it.
Yeah. It's just for fun. They wanted to try him on and pal around playing football.
They're just being four dudes that throw a football around.
You know how
in an
guys
alley.
are. Sometimes we'll put on our tuxedos and
Tuxedos.
throw the ball around.
It makes no sense.
It makes no sense. And yeah, so they go home. They just walk away, and that's the end of the scene. The next scene is, again, one of my favorites, mostly for one line, where they go to the coffee shop, Mark and Johnny, and they start talking about Johnny's new client, who is mysterious and confidential, and his way of like changing the subject is interesting and unique.
Yeah.
Where he asks Mark, hey, how's your sex life? And I don't think that's a question that any two best friends have ever asked each other. I have never in our 15 years of friendship ever asked you how your sex life is.
How's your sex life?
I could not care less, honestly.
Yeah, it's a pretty forward question. Especially when you're like changing subjects. It's pretty abrupt.
Yeah.
It's pretty like, whoa.
I guess the point is that it's uncomfortable for Mark and the audience when you know what his sex life is doing, which is
true.
Sleeping with Lisa.
You know what my favorite detail of that scene is, Jake? You get to listen to two couples give their full orders.
I didn't expect you to say that.
And
true,
then
though.
Johnny and Mark show up and they give their full orders as well.
Yeah.
And no one has to pay at this coffee shop.
It's called establishing the scene where you know you're at a coffee shop. The audience needs to know this is what happens. We're at a coffee shop. Oh, and here are people we know coming into the scene.
And it's good to know that they thought of 4 very specific drink orders to be made before your title characters even enter the scene.
It's true. It's true. Well, it is one of the only scenes that are not in the apartment, so they really had to.
It's true. And you do learn something about Mark and Johnny.
Okay.
In the scene. You learn Johnny drinks hot chocolate at a coffee shop, and you learn that Mark drinks tea.
Of course they do. The two weirdest things to get at a coffee shop.
And I love the empty manila folder that Johnny carries with him.
That's what you do when you're a banker.
That's what you do when you're a banker, apparently.
Very successful banker.
And in true fashion as every other scene in this movie, it only lasts less than a minute.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing that this movie is 106 minutes.
It's 106 minutes because the next scene is the fourth sex scene, which is so long. Because Mark and Lisa have sex again, and it's so drawn out and long for the whole song again.
And you get more sounds. His.
Yeah, this is worse.
There is a lot of
just go watch it. We don't need to act out the whole scene. You sound like Frankenstein.
Sorry,
Frankenstein's monster, rather. The next scene, let's skip ahead, is more joyful because it is back to two best friends running through the park in San Francisco, throwing the football.
I'm not gonna lie. The first 5 times that I watched this movie, I never caught the scene or the piece of dialogue where they set up this scene. Now, the setup for the scene is literally Johnny being like, blah, 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 at this time. And Mark goes, yeah, at 6 o'clock or whatever time. I had never caught it.
Saying setup is generous for sure.
It was.
But then they do throw in a scene where they run through the park, run 5 feet from each other in parallel, throwing a football back and forth. And it, I guess, just symbolizes their friendship.
You know what I love in
Even
that
though he
scene,
just
Jake?
banged his fiance.
Yeah.
What?
I
don't want to. Okay. Let's move on.
My favorite little detail of the football throwing scene in the park is Johnny feels the need to wear biker gloves or fingerless gloves.
Yeah. Like all the real professional football players do.
Yeah. I don't know why, but I homed in on that little detail of why the gloves?
This is his outdoor physical activity outfit.
Fair enough.
And he's got the sleeveless black shirt. He's got the baggy
He's
red
got to
pants.
show how jacked he is, okay?
It's true. It doesn't hurt. And cool guys wear sleeveless gloves. Everybody knows that. Or not sleeveless gloves, fingerless gloves.
There it is.
Fingers are like the sleeves for your fingers. Never mind. Move on.
The fingers are the
fingers of the gloves are the sleeves for your fingers. You know what I'm saying?
So then
then she tries to have sex with Mark again. Lisa does. And after she takes her shirt off, Michelle walks in on them.
Bum, bum, bum.
And so they're
caught in the act.
Exactly. Red-handed. Unfortunately, I guess Michelle already knows that she doesn't love Johnny, so it's not that big of a, reveal.
She's like, oh, hey, what you doing, kids?
Yeah. But she's, talking to her like, you sure Mark is the guy you want to, does he have it all? Does he have what you want out of life and all this stuff? And I don't really know where that scene goes from there.
It doesn't really go anywhere. But then we've got what you were talking about was Lisa and her mom are talking again. And Lisa kind of spills the beans. Mm-hmm. There's an old person phrase for you.
Yeah.
And her mom flat out tells her love has nothing to do with marriage. Mm-hmm. He's financially stable. She basically repeats half of her lines, but this time she does not have any I'm dying dialogue.
Unfortunately.
And then they leave, and Johnny has been home overhearing the conversation.
Yeah. And so he decides to record the phone as his way of finding out.
He actually says he's going to record everything.
Oh.
And then
plugs
a cassette recorder into the phone.
Yeah.
And like, it's a very long process. He does like several like plugins. He gets a cassette recorder set up and then happens to have a tape in his shirt pocket.
Yeah, I mean, you
Who
always got to be
doesn't carry
prepared.
around blank cassette tapes? Come on now.
It's 2003. Everybody had a cassette tape in 2003.
Especially in your pocket. You always had it in your pocket.
I was trying to think back, like, is it even possible to plug a cassette recorder into a telephone with like just a plug? He has a cord that plugs in the telephone, and that will record calls. And also, he like starts the recording. He pushes the button to start the tape. I'm like, is that going to just record nothing, or is it going to start when the call starts? I was actually trying to figure it out, but I don't think that's possible. Maybe it is.
I don't think it's possible. Plus, and this is another thing that kind of like makes your head hurt on the time frame of this movie. Those cassette tapes like have a time limit.
Yeah, they're like,
You can only record so many minutes on it. I think
it's like 25 minutes or something, 30 minutes.
no, it was longer than that. I think you could get cassettes that recorded up to
Okay. On one side?
yeah,
Okay.
like 45 minutes.
Oh,
I
that's
think you
pretty good.
could get about 45 minutes per side.
So an hour and a half total.
Ish.
Okay, so kids, if you don't know, well, the cassette tape is a thing that it's like a compact disc. No, it's like there's no way to explain it. Ask your mom.
You know what? Google it. Google it.
Yeah. It's a thing that when it would unravel, you used a pencil to put it back together. That's
Yeah,
what it
you
was.
could use the pen cap. You could use a pencil. Anything to fit in the teeth of the
You gotta-
reels.
Yeah.
And
Wind
you
it back
spun
up.
it.
So we're getting close to Johnny's birthday. I think we're almost there. Are we there? Is there anything in between?
Yeah, because Johnny sets up the recording. He's real pissed off. And then, happy birthday, Johnny. And you
Yeah.
think, oh, this is the party.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And you're
The
like,
party
wow,
we've
there's
been
actually a
planning
lot of
for
people.
I don't know if it's been a week. I don't know if it's been a weekend.
I don't know for how long Lisa's been planning this party, but she mentioned it like she mentioned it right after the first sex scene.
Yeah.
Yes.
So a long time ago.
Long time ago.
So they're having the
And,
party. Peter does not come to the party. I know everybody's
No.
concerned about where Peter is, the psychologist. He doesn't come. He's not there.
He's not there.
Steven
There is a random dude that
Yeah.
actually has screen time. We'll get to him in a second.
His name is Steven, and he has a very
Oh.
important role. And
Yes.
his role is to replace Peter because Peter had another job to go to, and they needed to recast him, but they named him Steven instead.
Steven, yeah. So the party is going, and Johnny shows up while the party's already
Mhm.
like in full swing.
It's a surprise party. That's how it works.
It's a surprise party. But generally, surprise parties, everyone's waiting.
Yeah.
Johnny shows up, and people are like, oh,
yeah.
hey!
Oh, hi, Johnny.
Yeah. Oh, hi, Johnny. Cool party, huh?
Yeah. And
And
then,
this is like when Lisa and Mark just pretty much completely stopped giving a fuck.
right.
This
They're in
whole
like
sequence.
the next room with she's up on his lap and they're just talking and canoodling and
Right. So they do the party thing for a little bit. Mark and Johnny get into a slight confrontation. There's a lot of B-roll of the party. You're not missing anything. We're literally not jumping around.
no.
This is how it goes.
Yeah.
And Lisa's trying to confess her love to Mark, and Mark's like, I don't like, you're a bitch. I don't like you.
I've
But
only had
he
sex
likes
with you
her.
twice. I don't want to have sex with you a third time. Maybe.
Yeah,
I
how
might
dare you, Lisa?
ask me tomorrow. Maybe I will.
Tomorrow. He's like, ask me in like 5 minutes and we'll be good.
Yeah.
And Lisa and him like kind of have a little bit of an altercation. She slaps him, and Johnny's like, finally, we got someone to react to a moment in a scene. It's amazing. Johnny gets up. What's going on? And Mark's like, maybe there's more going on than you think. And he's like, maybe I know more than you think I know. And it's very like, okay.
You don't know how much I know that you think I know that you know.
Yeah, it's very, very Friends reminiscent. And then like as soon as the fight starts, the fight is diffused. And Johnny's like, it's okay. The fight's over.
Mhm.
I'm sorry, Mark. I forgive you. And they
I
shake
love
on
you.
it.
You're my
I
best
love
friend still.
Yeah. They shake on it, and Lisa's like, it's getting really hot in here. And every time she says this line, immediately that Nelly song plays in my head.
Yeah.
And I'm like, not, don't sing it, Dustin. She's like, why don't we all go outside for some fresh air? And everyone piles out.
Mm-hmm.
And she holds Mark back. She's like, I have a surprise for you. And he's like, oh, yeah. And it's her sitting on his lap like a high school couple does.
Mm-hmm.
She's like draped her legs over his. She like leans on him and they make out. And you're like, that's the surprise. Everyone could have told you this is what you're going to do.
Yeah.
And in walks Steven, who I'm not going to lie, didn't know he had a character name until you just said it.
It's because I looked it up. You've never seen him before in this movie until now.
Ever.
It might as well be random friend walks into this room.
Right. He walks in, catches Lisa and Mark, chews her out, guilt trips her.
Mm-hmm.
And Johnny and Michelle come walking in, probably to check, like, where the fuck did Lisa and Mark go?
Yeah.
Because it's kind of obvious, like...
And Steven, he's the life of the party.
And Steven, you gotta have Steven around. You don't have this tight-knit group of friends without Steven being the glue.
It's true.
So Johnny and Michelle come waltzing in, and there's like a weird, what's going on? And Lisa again, man, it's getting really hot in here. We should go outside. So they go outside. You get more. You don't get B-roll. You get possibly. I think this is like the fourth time I've had to say this. Is this the most random, like, what the fuck line ever? It might be. I don't know. Verdict is yours. We get Johnny going, hey, everybody, great news. We're expecting. And everyone's excited for Johnny, and they walk off screen with Johnny, and Lisa is left with Michelle and Steven. And I'm like, I've known a lot of people that have made pregnancy announcements.
Yeah.
Everyone. And when I say everyone, it's literally everyone that is around for the announcement.
Mm-hmm.
Always congregate around the wife or the mom to be. And the dad to be is usually just like, I'm still here.
Yeah.
You can congratulate me.
I participated, but also I'm not really responsible for the next several months. So
I did my part.
Just going on food runs.
Right? Like, I'm on cravings duty from here on out. There's obviously way more than that. We can make those jokes. We're both dads.
Yeah, I've done plenty of diapers just today.
Yeah. It's such a good thing to say, like, just today.
Just today. Literally, before we started recording, I told Dustin we need to be delayed. I need to do a diaper.
Yep. And I was like, I remember those days. But we digress. Yeah, everyone is like, fuck Lisa. We're excited for Johnny.
Yeah.
And then Steven is ripping into Lisa some more.
I mean, if she can lie about him hitting her, he can lie about her being pregnant. I think that's fair.
But he's not lying. He thinks it's true because you immediately find out that Lisa lied that she's pregnant just to make it interesting.
Because she's a crazy person.
She's a crazy person. And immediately I think, oh, you're not just a bitch. You're actually stupid.
She's
because then
evil,
they're
too.
like, I feel like this is the only coherent moment from other characters where they're like, what? Like, you realize there's an actual timeline. There's like, my brain starts rolling around. Like,
Yeah.
there's physical changes. You can't really. And she goes, well, I figure we'll probably get pregnant sometime.
Yeah, good answer. Good answer.
It's the most asinine line in the whole movie.
I mean, you're getting married apparently in the next 2 weeks?
Month?
1 week?
1 week?
It was a month from the beginning of the movie. We don't know how far we've gone.
We don't know how far in the movie we are.
No.
But Mark and Johnny, everyone's going to pile back in because Lisa is like, you know what? It was too hot inside. We must all pile back into the home for cake.
Yeah.
Everyone piles into the home. Again, I've been to like group gatherings. No one wants to get told we're going in and out several times. People are like, no, pick one. Unless you're a smoker, then you go outside. If you're not, like, fuck off. We're doing our thing.
Right.
Lisa is a terrible host, folks. She's awful.
Well, yeah, it's a terrible person who is a terrible
person.
host.
Terrible person, yeah. But Mark and Johnny finally get into a bit of a fight.
Mm-hmm.
And we get the funniest version of the word motherfucker that we've heard in a long time.
I love when he says motherfucker because it's just that. And then when he calls her a bitch in a little bit, I'm like, I've heard that word a lot in my life, but I've never heard it this way before.
And it just sounds weird.
It sounds very weird.
Get out of my house, motherfucker.
It may be the first time he's ever said it, honestly.
Yeah. I was trying to think because it sounds so out of place.
Yeah.
And I
maybe
was
it was
like,
in the moment he came up with it and it wasn't in the script.
maybe. It felt very out of place. But yeah, him and Mark get in their fight. Mark like falls into the door.
Mm-hmm.
He technically hits his head on the door handle, but has no reaction to it. And I'm like,
stays in character.
You would notice if you hit a door handle.
Yeah.
I would know because I have fallen into some before. It hurts.
Yeah. So they tussle. They have a big fight and they're like, I'll kill you. And he talks about, and Mark says, hey, maybe your girlfriend wouldn't be into me if you kept her satisfied and all this stuff, all these fighting words. And and we all know as the audience that Johnny has done his best. He has humped in the general direction of, where he's supposed to hump. He's done everything he's supposed to do. I don't know.
He has humped in the general direction.
I mean, it's true.
I don't know if it's because I'm like tired, it's late, but that was the funniest fucking thing. we all know Johnny's done his part to keep it together. He has humped in the general direction.
I mean, yes, you can't blame Johnny. He's done his
my
best.
favorite episode.
But they fight. They really fight, and he's like, I'll kill you. And so he ends up, motherfucker. And he gets kicked. They get kicked out, and Johnny locks himself in the bedroom or bathroom or something.
Well, you forgot Johnny's little like pity party where he goes, I'm sick of everyone. This world betrayed me. I'm done.
Yeah,
And
that's
you're
the
like-
crux of the movie, that everyone has
two-
betrayed him.
Two people betrayed you. Two. The world. No, two.
Yeah, well, his best friend and his future wife have betrayed him.
Whole world betrayed me. And yeah,
so-
he locks himself in the bathroom.
And that's
I
when
think it's the bathroom.
she's trying to like get him to come out, and he's yelling back at her, and that's when he calls her a bitch, and she says he's just being a big baby.
Her mom comes upstairs.
Yeah, his
He's
mom's
upset.
not helpful. She's a nice lady, but she's not helpful.
And Mark and Lisa, like everyone kind of fucks off. And then we get the tantrum. Johnny comes out of the bathroom because Lisa calls Mark
Mm-hmm.
and he tells her, "I want your body." And she's like, "Okay." And
Yeah, after a fight with her boyfriend about, cheating with her,
Cheating.
that's generally the best time to be like, we should get together and make out again.
Johnny comes out of the bathroom. "What did you say?" She goes, "It's none of your business." And he goes, "We'll find out. We'll find out everything." And he gets the tape cassette.
Yep.
It's
He's
going
got
to
a
prove a
tape
point.
cassette.
It might be the only thing in the movie he follows through with.
Yeah, it's true. That part actually was set up earlier on and pays off at
And
the
it
climax
has
of
a
the movie.
payoff. And he plays the tape for Lisa. And Lisa's like, "You're a dick." And he's like,
You're a tramp.
"Why?" I'm
Yeah.
paraphrasing.
He calls her a tramp, and and apparently they've been together for 7 years. She's like, "I put up with you for 7 years," and he's like, "I treated you like a princess, and you stabbed me in the back," and
Which
obviously
he's not wrong.
it's true. He brought her dresses and flowers and made sweet, sweet love to her, and she did not
The
appreciate
general
it. We can't go over that again. I'll laugh too much. But yeah, so now Johnny knows everything. He's heard it from the horse's mouth, as it were, and that's when they finally, I guess, call it quits, because she leaves and he's alone in the room finally.
And he's mad, as one will be, as you should be.
Yeah,
And he goes on a destruction tour through the home, which I don't blame the guy. I'm like,
yeah,
you know what? Fuck her.
yeah.
Not,
And
I mean,
he's-
not anymore. We've had enough scenes, but like,
there's
you know,
a lot. He's replaying in his mind all the good moments, the tie around the head and the red dress, and only
comes into
replaying
the bedroom
moments
because he goes downstairs, destroys the downstairs,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah,
and then he
he's
goes back upstairs.
knocking stuff off the mantle, and
He's just throwing a tantrum. He finds the red dress from the beginning, so I guess that's technically the second thing that he.
that's true. That's probably the most, because that's the first scene to the last scene.
Yeah,
That-
and he like
It should have been called The Dress, not The Room.
should have. He falls to the floor holding the dress, and he's crying and he's screaming. You know,
God.
we've all. I think people generally have experienced emotional pain. I don't know if they've experienced it to the point where they have to dry hump an object.
Allegedly climax.
Apparently,
It seems like.
potentially blowing his last load ever. I don't know.
It's a sorrowful load if it did.
It's a sad load. And
That
He, like-
scene is the most, in a movie full of uncomfortable scenes, the scene where he is in agony over this breakup and then takes the dress and puts it over his crotch and humps it, remembering all of the scenes from the last week.
right, not 7 years worth.
Yeah, not all of the stuff we
Like-
haven't seen, just the stuff from the movie is the weirdest part of the movie for me.
It's odd. And
And
then he
that-
like gets up and he's like all like dead weight to himself, and he finds a gun, which I was like, where the fuck did this gun come from?
I know where it came from. You know where it came from?
No.
Chris R's gun from the roof when
Oh shit!
they took it and they saved Denny. Apparently the cops didn't take it. Johnny kept it.
Wow.
And Johnny has the gun that Chris R had.
That is 3 things in one scene that he
People say this movie has no continuity or plot.
Look at that. I've seen the movie several times now, and I learned 2 things tonight, Jake.
I wouldn't know if I didn't read it on the internet, honestly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he
Fair
puts
enough.
the gun in his mouth and pulls the trigger.
Pulls the trigger.
Decides that wants to end it.
Yep, it's too much.
Too much. Like Romeo and Juliet without the Juliet.
Yeah.
Like Tennessee Williams.
And then Lisa and Mark show up, bawling.
Apparently had enough of her body already.
Yeah. And as she is mourning over the suicide of Johnny, she looks at Mark and says, "But at least we can be together now." And he's like, "I don't want you. I don't love you anymore. You did this. You killed him. This is all your fault." And she's like, "Why are you saying these things?" And then Denny comes up.
Well, my favorite part is how Mark leans down slowly and kisses his
Johnny's forehead.
Like, it's just such a forced, like,
moment.
He's forced care for this character. It's so funny.
And Denny comes in crying, "Oh my god!" and tells both Lisa and Mark, "Just go away. Just get out of here." And the movie ends with the 3 of them weeping together.
Yeah.
And Johnny's lifeless body bleeding out on the bedroom floor.
Yeah. That's life.
What a story.
It really is.
It's
a tragic story of betrayal and relationships, and none of it matters or makes any sense whatsoever.
And none of it makes any sense. None of it is very coherent. You can tell, though, throughout the movie, like, you can kind of picture when he was making this movie, writing it and actually making it, you could tell where he's like, I know I've seen this style of scene and the characters reacted in this way, so I'm just going to do that.
Yeah. It's like piecing together a lot of pieces of somebody who has seen movies and like felt genuine emotion or been moved by certain things, or has heard about different movies and wants to add those things.
I think it's more like
popular.
It heard about it and put it together.
A lot of cliches, a lot of stereotypes, and a lot of
100%. I feel like this is the kind of movie where people should, on principle, just hate because it's so bad. But you can't because it's so watchable in the weirdest way, and it's so entertaining, and I don't know what way, but it's entertaining.
Yeah. And people have grasped on, it's created this huge cult fandom, and as fans do, they catch on to the littlest details. They've watched it so many times, and one of my funniest things that people do, it's become like the new Rocky Horror Picture Show, where people go to midnight screenings and laugh and do all this stuff.
Right.
But the tiniest details in the background of a lot of scenes, there are framed photographs of spoons and cutlery and things that not people, just like probably the stock footage that came with the frame. And so whenever that shows up on screen, fans will take giant trash bags full of plastic spoons to these screenings, and whenever a spoon comes up on screen in the background, they'll throw their plastic spoons at the screen and yell, "Spoon!"
Oh my god.
People are insane about this movie. They love it. And so that's why it's not a bad movie because this many people can't love a movie that's bad. It's bad in the sense that it's technically terrible.
Yes.
And there's no coherent
But it's
reason to like it.
But it's loved. I mean, this movie is celebrate. You and I have trashed it so much during this episode, but at the same time, like, we genuinely enjoy this movie. Like,
yeah, and you saying trashing it actually reminded me of something. I was watching a thing where there's all kinds of cinema, and there's some kinds of cinema that are subversive to mainstream cinema, and that's things like, you know, horror movies or pornography or other kinds of things. Trash cinema, quote unquote, is another kind of movie where it's like Killer Clowns from Outer Space or Plan B or whatever. These movies that are incredibly bad, and they're not mainstream. They don't follow any of the normal practices, normal plots, normal anything. But they're still become very popular. I was reading a thing that people that like those kinds of movies that subvert the mainstream and do different things that are unexpected like that, people generally like those that have higher intelligence, which is a weird thing that you kind of, not to toot our own horn or anything, because I do like it, but also I think that's an interesting thing, that if you like this thing that's kind of formed and well made and cookie cutter and easily digestible, that can get boring for somebody who sees that kind of stuff a lot or really likes it or really wants to get into it. And so to find something that's different and totally new, even if it sucks, it's at least different and trying new things.
But
and
there's
that on its own is interesting.
Yeah. I think that is funny because I do genuinely I like B movies. Killer Clowns is like, if you've listened to our show long enough, you know Killer Clowns is, I fucking love this movie. I love Plan 9 from Planet B. Like, and The Room. I mean, it really did go from that first time I watched it where I was just so confused by what the hell I was watching.
Yeah.
And kept telling myself, like, you should, like, part of you wants to turn it off and just be like, worst thing ever made, but you can't. And the more you think about it, the more you talk about it, the funnier it gets. And then when you like talk to other people about a scene, you can make, I mean, you and I, everyone that listens to us or watches us knows, like, we don't really talk episode stuff because we like saving a lot of it for when we're recording. But we said it, I think, even before we hit the record button of, like, we both knew we're going to do terrible impressions of Tommy the entire episode, and it won't stop. We just knew that. Like, and I feel like that's the fun thing about B movies or this style of movie where it's fan base. Everyone just automatically has that same kind of connection. Everyone's on that same page. You can make that joke, that reference, and someone is going to be like, yes. Like, you get excited about it. It's like this little group. It's not that little, actually. It's huge.
Yeah.
But they're fun. B movies are just, they're fun. We get enough mainstream, and I love mainstream stuff. Like, I'm not someone that's going to have a problem with it. Clearly, I like comic book movies. Come on,
right?
But I also, and I'm not like into the super artsy stuff a whole lot. I think that tries too hard.
Yeah,
and I think that's where the B movie comes in to kind of be one of the most entertaining styles where, like, yeah, sometimes they do try really hard and it blows up, and that's what makes it enjoyable. Other times it's like, we just thought it was stupid and fun, so we did it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's enjoyable. Yeah. It's a nice mental break.
And I think The Room hits that perfect level of, I think the reason it's so great for what it is because of how sincere Tommy was in creating it and believing it and wanting it, his unique style tied with his sincere drive to make this movie and his complete lack of skill to accomplish that movie is just the perfect combination that you couldn't recreate even if you wanted to.
It's true.
I think the thing that the disaster artist does that's interesting is that it kind of tells the story from the hindsight perspective, it seems like, and that's my interpretation of it, in the sense that
Very much. I take it very much as it's the hindsight. And it's the hindsight because it's based on the book, based on the experience.
And I don't know how much of the book is like in the first person, in the perspective of, I didn't know how successful this would be when we were making it. I didn't know what it would become, all that kind of stuff. But the movie is definitely this is a success, even if it's not the success he was looking for. And everybody loves it, everybody laughs at it. He just has to kind of change his perspective of that's the success, that people will love it and it will become a phenomenon that will gain me all this acclaim. It's that's kind of how it I think there's a happy ending in The Disaster Artist that's kind of wrapped up quickly, because you already know that, oh yeah, everybody likes The Room. It's really fun. It's a bad movie. People are laughing at it. But you skip over all of it was released. Nobody saw it. Nobody cared for it. Took a long time to gain a cult following, all that stuff.
Yeah, and I don't think it needed to have that. I like how they conclude it, and I really appreciate that they approached making this movie, James Franco, Rogen, Evan Goldberg, the whole crew approached the making of this movie with making sure it gave heart to it and didn't showcase the movie as like, oh, it's just this horrible movie and we leave it at that. Mm-hmm. But they actually showed
on
like
Tommy as like
instead just being like sincere about it, like this movie, they meant to make a great American film. Mm-hmm. They made a terrible American film, but the fan base is so huge, and The Room really is kind of a definitive Hollywood success story. Like it is that story. It has the audience. It's got all the acclaim. Might not be conventional, but it
will stand the test of time.
It's gonna be there. We said it at the start. We're like, The Disasters. I love that movie. I think it's incredibly made. It's everything about it is so on point. But no one talks about it. No one talks about Oscar winners. No one talks about, who cares? A lot of people care. Sorry. I care on some of stuff, but the general audience, people don't really remember this stuff. They remember The Room.
Yeah.
You can even bring up The Room to people who have not watched it, but they know it. They've heard of it. They know a reference from it.
And I think it's because it gives them the best thing that movies should give people. The thing that Academy Award winning movies generally don't. They give you a nice story that is told well, that has a good performance, that a handful of people see. They're like, oh, that's nice. I like that. It's well done. It doesn't have the social interaction stuff. Yeah. And that's what The Room has, which is it's all social interaction stuff. You say, oh, hi, Mark. Somebody near you will know what that means. Go out of their mind like, oh my God, I love that movie.
Yeah.
And then you've made a best friend all of a sudden. And that thing is a very human thing. Just going back to like people telling stories around the campfire kind of thing, that people will relate to each other through these stories and shared experiences and laughter and all that stuff. It connects them in a way that other more conventional, more in like artsy movies don't do. And so I think The Room and other better movies like Anchorman does that. All these other movies do that. But The Room is able to do that where quote unquote better movies don't. They fail to do that. And that they're kind of just lost to put in the archives and all that stuff.
Yeah. 100% agree. I think also what like adds fuel to that and all the like big cult movies do this, and even you brought up Anchorman. That's a great example of like the mainstream doing kind of the cult movie mentality of focusing on the audience.
Yeah.
And being very interactive with an audience, whereas, you know, you can quote Anchorman and people are going to laugh and know immediately what you're saying. You can quote certain comedies and people will know. You're going to make someone's day by making a joke.
Right.
You do that with The Room. You do that with, like, I mean, Evil Dead, the original Evil Dead is like the reigning supreme of B-movie royalty because people just locked into it. It became a social thing. It became this huge like product to connect people who just wanted something different.
Yeah.
And it's not in a pretentious way. It's in a just like it's a silly way. And it leans into it. And I think it's awesome. I rewatching The Room, like I said, I watched it 3 times in the last week. 2 were specifically for note taking and research. The 3rd time legit was just, I felt like watching it.
Yeah.
And it's such a weird feeling to know, like, I just genuinely wanted to watch this movie. I didn't have to.
Right. Yeah. A movie you'd just seen. You're like, that sounds fun again.
Like, I've written down all the notes. I've written down all the scene breakdowns. I've done all the stuff. I watched that documentary you sent me and then immediately watched The Room. Like, like, I did it. I watched Disaster Artist a couple times, and we're probably not really going to talk about that one at all, but I think that's okay.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll do it in another episode because I genuinely like that movie.
Yeah.
But The Room is just, there's something special, and it's kind of fun not being able to pinpoint it, but it's so fun.
Yeah. It has that inexplainable, unidentifiable quality, I guess, of magic.
Yeah. I mean, we just recorded this for like 3 hours on a movie that is 106 minutes, has no discernible plot, has no like coherent moment, but it's so much fun, and it's fun to talk about. And it's fun to just like, I think it's healthy probably for the mainstream folk to take a step back and just kind of appreciate the impact that stuff like this can have, like that positive impact, especially in film. Sometimes we need this. It kind of helps recalibrate stuff, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
So I love The Room, dude. It's so like, I want to say it's so good, but like, it's not, but it is. It's such
I'm so glad it exists. I'm so glad Tommy Wiseau pulled it off.
Me too.
Whether it was a money laundering scheme or a real passion project or both.
Whether it was money laundering with the mob or great leather pants sales, or he just happened to save up over $6 million over the course of a few years and decided to spend it. I saw, he says that on the Disaster Artist. There's a part where like Tommy was on set. He has a cameo in the Disaster Artist, and they asked him like, so how'd you pay for The Room? And his answer was literally like, well, what do you do with money that you save up? You spend it, right? You spend it on whatever. I spent it on the movie. And I'm like, I mean, that's cool. And what's funny is it's the simplest answer. And I'm like, dear God, that's probably literally what he did. This guy probably has had no life. He just kept saving money. And then one day was like, okay.
Yeah, I mean, it helps that he's 50 years old for sure. But I think the problem with that is the only jobs he's ever admitted to are restaurant busboy, hospital worker, street vendor. He got a degree in psychology from community college, and then his fashion jean brand.
Yeah, the leather pants or whatever the fuck.
Yeah, they're like
none of those scream millionaire.
No. But yeah, he had $6 million for the movie. He had a billboard up in Los Angeles for the room for 5 years, which costs about $5,000 a month. So that's another several $100,000.
Well, he paid to keep the movie in theaters for at least 2 weeks to be eligible for the Academy Awards.
Yeah, he claims he submitted it, and it is very legit. You can look it up.
Yeah. It should have won. What did win in 2003?
Oh, I don't freaking know. Let's look.
I'm just curious now.
2003 Academy Award winner is 75th Academy Awards. Yes. Chicago was Best Picture. Oh, wait. What am I looking at here? Oh, yeah. Chicago Best Picture. Roman Polanski Best Director for The Pianist. Adrian Brody Best Actor for The Pianist.
Nothing against Chicago. It's definitely an entertaining movie.
Is it the best movie of the year, though?
No. And I would genuinely rather watch The Room over Chicago. And Chicago is one of my favorite musicals.
It's true. It was on the list.
It was on my list. I genuinely enjoy Chicago, but The Room is just more appealing. It's just more fun to watch.
Yeah. Yeah, you'll rewatch it 100 times more.
Yeah, I haven't watched Chicago in a long time now. But folks, please watch The Room. If you saw it before we broke it down, I hope you were laughing and I hope you were doing all the same impressions.
Yeah.
If you have not watched it, go watch it.
If you go, you could watch it for free on YouTube, but you should not do that. You should go to TommyWiseau.com. And there you can buy Tommy Wiseau's own custom branded underwear. You can buy copies of The Room on Blu-ray and DVD. His About page says that he will sign anything for free, but he has all kinds of ridiculous merch. So he has 5-pound dumbbells, which you can get, so you can be as jacked as he is. They're 5 pounds.
So this is a big deal, folks, because normally we do not promote anything really, except our own stuff.
Barely promote our own stuff,
and we barely do that. Yeah, go check his website out. It's ridiculous, as you would want. There's tank tops, women and ladies.
There's watches that are normally $140 for $50. I think he's still running his knockoff fashion business.
But those are out of stock. You have to buy the Princess Penelope, which is originally 120, but they're 50 now.
Okay.
You got neckties. You got the Oh Hi Mark shirts.
You can get the official Room original motion picture soundtrack on compact disc for $6.
There it is.
You're tearing me apart, Lisa, mug.
Tearing me apart, Lisa.
15 ounces,
Fed
$10.
up with this world.
So yeah, Tommy Wiseau, he's making it work. He's not technically a genius, but he could be. Nobody knows, and nobody needs to know.
I'm kind of convinced that he is.
He might be a secret genius.
I'm kind of convinced he is.
Or he might be an autistic something or other.
That happens too.
It could be both. Lots of geniuses are autistic, but he's got something going on. He's touched in some way.
He's unique, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that he is that unique, though.
He is. And I hope that he never stops being his authentic self. I think that's what works. That's the thing that worries me about the Big Shark movie he's making. It's the first movie that he's written and directed and produced and starred in since The Room. He's made other stuff, but never done all of those things all at once. I worry that he will try too hard to be what he thinks people want him to be, when people really want him to be himself and as delusional as he is and thinking it's good kind of thing.
Yeah. You watched the trailer for it, right?
I did. It looks like Birdemic with sharks, which Birdemic is another kind of terrible B movie about birds.
It's got the best CGI you'll ever see in your life.
It's
level. this reminded me of like Birdemic and kind of Sharknado wannabe, and I'm excited for it. But I do worry that he'll try too hard.
Mm-hmm.
That it'll almost feel like the sophomore outing,
Right.
where you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. I worry that he'll be try too hard to be silly, and it won't be funny for the same reasons that The Room is funny.
Yeah,
but I guess we'll see. Comes out this year.
We'll find out. We'll find out. I definitely want to watch it, but we'll find out.
All right.
Well, folks,
I think that's enough.
We'll talk Disaster Artist at some other point. We ran a little long with The Room, but that's okay.
Yeah,
because The Room deserves fun conversations. I love The Room.
Yeah, it's so good. Next time, though, we're doing our top 10 movie scores. So the Room has a fire soundtrack. Some other movies, though, have possibly better soundtracks.
Now we're doing movie scores, not like soundtrack of music inspired by the movie.
True, but The Room has original music composed for it.
It does.
So it counts. Just saying.
It better not be on your list.
It won't be. No, I have legit movie scores and incredible music from a lot of good movies. So we're doing that next time.
It's been a difficult list for me to try and do. I will explain on the episode. But yeah, so tell us your favorite music, or definitely tell us about The Room. I want to know your experience watching it. Did you watch it with a big group of people for the first time?
Do you hate it because somebody ruined it for you?
Yeah.
Or do you hate it because you have better taste than we do? Because that was to be understandable as well.
Psh, whatever. Our taste is awesome.
Pretentious assholes.
Go buy your merch. All the fun stuff that we're terrible at promoting. Go do that.
Yeah.
And
subscribe on YouTube. And we'll
see
you next time.
Bye, everyone.